Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Marvel. My Dad is Galactus. Chapter 41. Along with the loud voice announcing the victory, the atmosphere of the entire arena reached an unprecedented climax. For a time, huge amounts of sound waves almost formed sound waves, drowning the entire arena. Most of these spectators who come to watch the gladiatorial fight are long-term residents of Sokka, and some are friends and guests of Gao Tianzun, the owner of Sokka. The higher the audience seat, the higher the identity and status. As for the exquisite hall built separately at the highest point of the entire arena, that is the area where Gao Tianzun is located. At the moment, Gao Tianzun held the microphone in his hand, his eyes full of excitement, and like all the audience, he was dancing excitedly. Some people may think that Gao Tianzun, as the elder of the universe and the initiator and controller of this battle of champions, should be quite indifferent. In fact, this is not the case. Each cosmic elder has his own unique personality and habits. Regardless of their strength, this almost eternal life may make countless people extremely envious and jealous, but for each one, for the elder of the universe, it is not as beautiful as imagined. A long life is accompanied by endless emptiness and loneliness, which can be endured for hundreds or thousands of years. But what about tens of thousands or tens of thousands of years? This would drive any sane person crazy. Even though they are the elders of the universe, they will give up their persistence in life after experiencing unimaginable loneliness and emptiness. In history, there are precedents for the elders of the universe to commit suicide and embrace death. In view of this, the elders of the universe finally found a way to keep themselves alive, that is, to cultivate an interest. Use your interest to keep yourself from losing your faith in life. Gardener, runner, observer, collector. Each cosmic elder has his or her own title, and their hobbies can be seen from their titles. Horticulturists are obsessed with their gardening careers and create gardening paradises on different planets. Runners use their naked eyes to discover all destinations and things and scenery on the other side by running, and they have never stopped for hundreds of millions of years. The collector regards collecting as his hobby and has collected countless rare treasures and materials in the universe for countless years. Definitely, most of these collections have now been transformed into Thrall's strength. Gao Tianzun's original title was Sage of Competition, because competition was his greatest interest. Let's all cheer and applaud our champion. After the winner was announced, Gao Tianzun not only danced with joy, but also asked everyone around him to cheer with him. Due to Gao Tianzun's supreme position in Sokka, no matter what everyone thought in their hearts, they did a good job on the surface. They all turned red and cheered hard. However, when everyone cheered and applauded Gao Tianzun, the light in the entire hall dimmed. To be precise, the light in the entire arena dimmed. Because the huge amounts of light coming from the open dome of the open-air arena were mostly blocked by the sudden appearance of the behemoth, and only the gaps at the edges could let in some light. The sudden change caused a pause in the voices in the arena. Everyone looked up in confusion, trying to figure out what was going on. When everyone saw clearly, the entire arena gradually fell into deathly silence. On the open-air dome of the arena, there was a dragon winding its way, its huge body almost completely filling the entire dome. Monsters. There are monsters. Master Grandmaster, what is this? The people around Gao Tianzun also exclaimed in surprise after seeing clearly the ferocious appearance of the starry sky beast, and their horrified eyes all fell on Gao Tianzun. Not to mention everyone's surprise, even Gao Tianzun himself found it a bit incredible. He has controlled Sokka for countless years, and everything here is under his control, but Gao Tianzun has never heard that there are such huge amounts of starry sky beasts in the starry sky where Sokka is located. I have long heard that the championship fights organized by Universe Elder Gao Tianzun are very exciting. Today I saw it. However, although this battle is exciting, the quality seems to be average. When Gao Tianzun was wondering, a clear voice sounded, coming from the position of the slowly falling starry sky beast. Following the sound, everyone discovered that there was a figure standing above the huge amounts of starry sky beast, with a playful look on his face. This figure is none other than Thal, who came from afar. Thal watched the whole fight from high in the sky. When it was over, the starry sky beast fell down and appeared in everyone's sight. When seeing Thal, Gao Tianzun always felt a little familiar. But soon, Gao Tianzun's expression changed, and the young man in front of him completely overlapped with the figure in a piece of information he had received before. Why is this uncle here? This was Gao Tianzun's first reaction after recognizing Sal's identity. He clearly remembered that not long ago, the collection of his brother, Collector Tanya Diffin, another universe elder, had just been ransacked by this uncle, which almost made Collector commit suicide due to heartache. As soon as Sal's words came out, many people were slightly stunned. Who is this person, who dares to say this about the championship battle that Gao Tianzun has been running for many years? Many people are thinking that if they offend Gao Tianzun, there will be a good show next. But there are also attentive people with inexplicable expressions on their faces. From the aura that the starry sky monster emits intentionally or unintentionally when it comes, you can judge that the strength of this monster is absolutely powerful, far from being comparable to the winners in today's gladiatorial arena. Of being able to grow on top of such a giant beast, it is indeed understandable that the opponent said that the quality of the championship battle held by Gao Tianzun was average. It turns out that Sir Thal has come to my little place. In front of Sir Thal, my championship battle is definitely childish. Recognizing Sal's identity, Gao Tianzun's face was suddenly filled with smiles, and he greeted Sal rather politely, with even a hint of flattery in his words. As soon as Gao Tianzun's words came out, the entire hall was audible. What's happening here? Gao Tianzun, one of the elders of the universe, would be so polite, even respectful, to a stranger who came out of the blue. Gao Tianzun, do you know me? Sal raised his eyebrows slightly, but he didn't expect Gao Tianzun to recognize his identity at a glance. However, this little surprise was quickly ignored by Sal. Since Gao Tianzun knew his identity, he could save a lot of effort. Definitely, Lord Thal has visited my brother Collector's Ziwu realm before, and I have already received the news. I didn't expect that Lord Thal would come to my little Sokka today. It really makes me feel very honored. The smile on Gao Tianzun's face did not diminish. Seeing that Sal did not mean to be too arrogant, the tension in his heart eased a little. He had already secretly guessed the purpose of Sal's coming to Sokka. He is not the collector. What does this little Sakar have that deserves Thal himself? Regarding Thrall's name, not much is known about Sakar, which has been closed all year round. However, Gao Tianzun's presence can make even Gao Tianzun extremely polite, and everyone has also realized that this young man named Thal has a great background. Scared dead man. For a moment, no one except Gao Tianzun dared to speak. Everyone lowered their heads slightly, secretly looking at Thal curiously. Thal smiled slightly, thinking of the close relationship between Gao Tianzun and Collector. It was not surprising that he could be recognized quickly. Gao Tianzun, I came here today because I am actually interested in the championship battle you are hosting. Without being too polite to Gao Tianzun, Thal jumped down from the head of the starry sky beast and slowly landed in front of Gao Tianzun. Sal's words made the smile on Gao Tianzun's face freeze slightly. The majestic son of the creation god, who is at the top level in this universe in terms of status and strength, is actually interested in a small championship competition held by him. However, this little doubt was quickly suppressed by Gao Tianzun, who arranged the seats with a smile on his face, so that Sal could sit in the most distinguished position. Lord Thal, since you are interested in the championship battle, let's add a few more gladiatorial battles today. Originally, championship battles were usually held only once at a time. Only in the long run could the audience be sufficiently enthusiastic. But today, because of Thrall's words, Gao Tianzun made an exception and allowed the championship battle to continue. Everyone, there is a small situation, but it does not affect it, because today Sakar welcomes the most distinguished guest. Let me introduce you to Thal, the son of the creation god planet devourer who has just arrived in Sakar. Garland. Accompanied by Gao Tianzun's rather inflammatory voice, huge amounts of three-dimensional projections of him and Thal suddenly appeared on the arena. Gao Tianzun had a smile on his face, while Sal sat calmly without any sign of panic. When the starry sky beast arrived, everyone was secretly speculating on the identity of the being standing above the starry sky beast. Now that the answer to the mystery is revealed by Gao Tianzun, it is tantamount to a blockbuster, causing the silent arena to explode instantly. Thal Garan, son of the creation god planet devourer. For these ordinary viewers, that is an existence that is out of reach. Let me tell you another good news. The tickets you have are definitely worth the price. In order to welcome Lord Thal, today there will be continuous warm-up challenges for the championship battle. Until nightfall, please don't be stingy with your applause. Facing tens of thousands of spectators, Gao Tianzun looked around and then said loudly. Gao Tianzun's voice was echoed over and over again by the loudspeaker device, spreading throughout the arena. Ho, I didn't expect that I would actually see the descendants of the creation gods. Oh my god. Lord Thal, additional match, extra match, Grandmaster hail, Lord Thal hail. The tide of cheers couldn't stop. Whether it was Thrall's arrival or the championship battle that continued until nightfall, it completely aroused everyone's emotions and completely ignited everyone's enthusiasm. The next match. The champion of this match, the Abyss Flame Demon Barbassa, known as the Bloodthirsty King, will fight against the Mountain Giant. Along with Gao Tianzun's voice, there was a regular vibration on the ground of the arena, and the huge amounts of steel gate on one side of the arena slowly opened under mechanical control. Planet-level combat power. Thrall's eyes moved slightly, and he was already keenly aware of the aura of the gladiator who was about to enter. It seems that Gao Tianzun has used his trump card in order to make the championship battle more exciting. After all, planet-level existences are absolutely rare in the entire universe. Boom. Before the thick steel gate was fully opened, it exploded under an inexplicable attack. Steel fragments and gravel shot out, raising dust all over the sky. In the smoke and dust, a mountain-like huge amounts of bodies loomed. I am the king of the mountains, the ruler of the power of the earth. A huge and dull sound came from this mountain-like body, carrying a shocking power. This is a creature whose whole body is like a piece of stone. Countless stones are piled up to form a human figure. It is slightly crouching on the ground, reaching a height of more than 10 meters. Just standing there, its powerful momentum is enough to make countless opponents sigh. Lord Thal, this is a Croonin warrior. Due to the mutation in his bloodline, his body has been enlarged countless times. He once caused a riot in Croonin and almost seized the power of the royal family. However, in the end, he was exiled here and became the most powerful gladiator under me. Looking at the mountain giant, Gao Tianzun's eyes showed excitement, just like a child seeing a beloved toy and introducing it to Thal with relish. Thal nodded slightly, looking at the mountain giant with a bit of interest. He knows something about the Croonin clan. This is a magical race. All the Croonin people are made of stone. Their unique ability makes them naturally powerful warriors. And the one in front of him is obviously one of the Croonin warriors. Absolutely top-notch existence. While Thal and Gao Tianzun were joking, the battle in the field had already begun. Although the mountain giant is huge and powerful, Barbassa, the abyssal fire demon who was the victor in the previous battle, showed no sign of fear. Barbassa can have the title of Bloodthirsty King, which shows how ferocious he is. Usually, anyone who is Barbassa's opponent dies miserably in the end. What Barbassa likes most is to ravage his opponent, completely destroying his opponent's body, and bathing in his opponent's blood like crazy. At the moment, Barbassa was covered in blood, his aura bursting with bloodthirsty. Although he was in human form, he gave the impression that he was a brutal beast. His fighting style was also the same as that of beast, with a desperate posture. Even if the opponent's the attack can hit you, but you don't dodge it at all, forcing your opponent to be hurt as well. Facing a mountain giant dozens of times his own size, Barbassa used a bloody mace. For opponents covered in hard stone, only such heavy weapons can be effective. Otherwise, sharp weapons such as swords do not have enough terrifying power, but it will be difficult to break through the defense of the stone. The battle had just begun and quickly entered a fever pitch. Both the mountain giant and Barbassa tried their best to win a beautiful victory in the shortest time. Today is different from the past. At the highest point of the stand, in addition to Gao Tianzun, there is another extremely noble Thal, making both of them want to do their best. For a moment, a lot of stone chips flew from the mountain giant's body, and there were also several bloody wounds on Barbassa's body. Such a fierce battle attracted thousands of eyes and made the audience cheer louder and louder. Lord Thal, who do you think has the best chance of winning this game? When the two were fighting, Gao Tianzun smiled. Gao Tianzun, who do you think will win? Thal smiled and asked a question. Barbassa is my favorite to win the championship. I have spent a lot of effort on him. Even his body has been strengthened many times with genetic fluid. If nothing else, Barbossa will become the final winner. Facing Thal, Gao Tianzun had no intention of hiding it. He had indeed deliberately cultivated Barbossa as the favorite to win the championship. Therefore, Gao Tianzun was full of confidence. What Gao Tianzun didn't say is that Barbossa is also quite well established. He is a Barlow flame demon from the Abyss Plane, and his strength is infinitely close to the level of a demon leader. The reason why Barbossa appeared in Sokka was precisely because he once challenged a powerful demon leader and was eventually exiled to Sokka after losing. After Barbossa was exiled to Sokka, Gao Tianzun saw his strength and asked him to become a gladiator. Barbossa took this opportunity to continue fighting and improving, hoping to one day return to the Abyss Plane for revenge. For this reason, Gao Tianzun and Barbossa hit it off and joined the championship battle. After experiencing many battles, Barbossa's strength increased rapidly, and he received more and more resources from Gao Tianzun, which made his character tough and ferocious, and he vaguely possessed the power of revenge. So that's it. The weapon used by Barbossa should be considered a sub-artifact, right? Thal smiled slightly and reacted immediately. Barbossa's battle with the mountain giant caused stone fragments to fly every time, thanks to this powerful weapon. Gao Tianzun nodded slightly, with a smile on his face. This is what he gave to Barbossa. With this powerful sub-artifact, Barbossa has a good chance of winning even if he faces an opponent stronger than himself. However, I still don't think you are the favorite to win the championship. I think Stone Man will win this game. Thal smiled slightly and said confidently. Thal is quite certain about the outcome of the battle. With his perception, he can clearly judge the strength of both sides of the battle. Barbossa's strength has reached the planet level under the continuous training of Gao Tianzun. Both strength and speed are quite balanced, and he has a powerful sub-artifact with powerful attack power, which is indeed quite powerful. However, under Thrall's deceptive perception, the mountain giants relied on the advantages of the originally Croonin race to have extremely strong defense and explosive power. The most important thing was that through the rock-like body appearance of the mountain giants, Thrall noticed a group of them. Quite a special energy. This kind of energy appears magnificent and thick, and the fluctuations it emits are actually connected to the pulse of the entire Sakaar planet, with a tendency to resonate. Thrall believes that this is the root cause of the transformation of the Croonin warriors into mountain giants, and it is also his trump card. Just like this, a ball of energy burst out violently. Even if the Balur fire demon controlled the sub-artifact, it would never be able to stop it. Gao Tianzun, how about we make a bet? Let's bet on who will be the winner of such a fight. Thal suggested with a smile. Thrall's identity awes everyone. When he was chatting with Gao Tianzun, no one else dared to speak, but they kept listening attentively. Hearing Thal's bet, everyone was very curious, and all their eyes fell on Gao Tianzun for a while. In fact, Thal also captured Gao Tianzun's psychology. Gao Tianzun is known as the sage of competition. This is well known, but few people know that Gao Tianzun is not only very keen on competition, but also very interested in betting. Okay, since Lord Thal is interested, I definitely can't refuse. I wonder what kind of bet Lord Thal wants to make. Gao Tianzun looked excited and asked. Let's bet on the outcome of this fight. Gao Tianzun, you think your carefully trained gladiator Barbossa will win, but I think Croonin's mountain giant can win. A cunning look flashed in Thal's eyes, and he said with a smile. Okay, Lord Thrall, let's decide like this. What do you want to bet on? Gao Tianzun didn't have any doubts about the bet proposed by Thal. He agreed immediately and asked Thal about the bet. The bet is easy to handle. Gao Tianzun, you have a lot of money. How about we use an artifact and a condition within our ability as a bet? Seeing that Gao Tianzun had entered his own game, Thal directly stated the bet he had already thought of. Hiss. Upon hearing the bet raised by Thal, there was a sudden gasp of air conditioning among the crowd. The bet turned out to be an artifact. You know, this is not a child's toy. The preciousness of any artifact is far beyond ordinary people's imagination. In this vast universe, for billions of years, the number of artifacts has been very few. In addition to the powerful artifacts that were naturally condensed from the remaining essence of the universe at the beginning of the universe, only the dwarf family and certain special beings have the ability to forge artifacts. You can imagine how precious they are. But now, just because of the outcome of a gladiatorial battle, Thal proposed to use an artifact as a bet. The look in everyone's eyes when they looked at Thal was quite shocking. Who is the richest person? Even Gao Tianzun was a little shaken by the bet raised by Thal. A divine weapon, for him, the Elder of the Universe, is not something he can just take out if he wants to. Gao Tianzun is not good at fighting. So far, he only has one artifact in his hand. It was the scepter that appeared in the movie plot and was used by Gao Tianzun to punish his escaped cousin by annihilating him into pus. At the same time, Gao Tianzun was also wondering. Since Thal dared to make such a bet, he naturally had a certain confidence. So where did his confidence come from? Gao Tianzun, how about it? Don't you have no confidence in the warriors you have carefully trained? Or do you mean that the dignified Elder of the Universe does not have a divine weapon? Seeing Gao Tianzun's hesitation, Thal added another fire and got excited. In full view of everyone, Gao Tianzun had already agreed to the bet, but now that Thal was about to do it, he couldn't take it back. Okay, although the artifact is precious, I happen to have one on hand, which is perfect for making bets. Gao Tianzun smiled and gestured casually, and soon an attendant came to fetch his artifact. This artifact looks like an ordinary long-handled scepter. The top of the metallic handle is inlaid with a bright yellow stone. If Gao Tianzun hadn't deliberately asked someone to take it out, I'm afraid no one would have thought it was a precious thing. Incomparable artifact. Only a strong person with strong perception like Thal can clearly detect the restrained and majestic energy in this scepter. Nice one. Seeing scepter, Thal couldn't help but praise him. If it were an ordinary artifact, Thral's devouring it would only make his energy more powerful, but his strength would not improve much. But this scepter was different. After it was taken out, the nebula particles in Thral's body trembled with excitement. This is proof that the energy level contained in the scepter is not only majestic, but also has some rather peculiar properties. According to Thral's rough understanding of this scepter, if nothing unexpected happens, the attributes of this scepter should be annihilation or corrosion. Lord Thal, this is my bet, what about yours? Touching scepter, Gao Tianzun couldn't put it down. Although he rarely fights, this scepter is his most convenient tool to punish those traitors who betrayed him. Gao Tianzun, don't worry. I really don't have any artifacts with me, but I can tell you the news. The dwarf clan of nebula has surrendered to me and has now migrated to the sovereign star territory within my sphere of influence. Thal spoke calmly and said that he could not take out the artifact, but his face did not turn red and his heart did not beat. First, Thal was confident enough that he could win the bet. It didn't matter whether he could win the bet or not. Secondly, the dwarf clan has surrendered to him. Wouldn't it be easy to create an artifact? After hearing Thal's words, many people felt that Thal was making a fool of himself, but no one dared to talk nonsense. However, Gao Tianzun was stunned for a moment and then quickly laughed. I didn't expect Lord Thal to be able to make the dwarf clan a vassal. It seems that in the near future, Lord Thal will definitely become the person who controls the most artifacts in the universe, and his wealth will even surpass that of my brother, the collector. As the Elder of the Universe, Gao Tianzun knows a lot about the secrets of the universe. Thal's words have proved in disguise that he has enough confidence to make the bet Gao Tianzun wants. The premise is that Gao Tianzun can win this bet. If I lose, I will ask the dwarf family to help you build an artifact you designate. Thal said. For a moment, Gao Tianzun was happy and nodded repeatedly. An ordinary artifact is nothing to Gao Tianzun, and he may not be able to use it yet. But customizing an artifact has a completely different meaning. Gao Tianzun can completely let the dwarf clan create the artifact he wants according to his own needs. As for the conditions within his ability, Gao Tianzun is even more imaginative. If Thal could owe him a favor through a bet, that would be a wonderful thing. If Sokka encounters any trouble in the future, Gao Tianzun can completely remove the great god Thal. Even the person behind Thal will show up. From this point of view, no matter what the bet was, Gao Tianzun was able to take advantage of it. It's really a pleasure to play such a game with Lord Thal. Thinking of the excitement, Gao Tianzun felt so happy that he almost laughed out loud. A little gambling is fun, and it's not bad to have fun once in a while. Like Gao Tianzun, the smile on Sal's face was also very bright. A little gambling for pleasure. Is this a small gamble? Everyone had the urge to vomit blood. He is truly worthy of being the son of the elder of the universe and the creator god. A bet made with a bet that ordinary people would not even dare to think about. The originally exciting fight had changed dramatically after Gao Tianzun and Sal made a bet. The fierce battle between Barbassa and the mountain giant is no longer the focus of attention, the final result is the answer that everyone is eager to know. At the moment, the fighting in the field was extremely fierce. Barbassa adhered to his usual fierce style, opening and closing the sub-artifact in his hand, and a faint bloody light lingered on it, making his attack power quite terrifying. The mountain giant was also not weak against Barbassa's frenzied attacks. Although he was huge, his movements were not sluggish, and his swift attacks were only slightly slower than Barbassa's. Although there is no powerful assistance like a sub-artifact, the stone on the mountain giant's body is the best armor and weapon. His attack was powerful and heavy, and it fell on Barbassa, who was injured. Barbassa also had a hard time. By this time in the battle, Barbassa already had many wounds, both large and small, with blood flowing out freely. Although the mountain giant could not bleed, there were also many defects in his body. It can be said that this was a fierce and evenly matched battle. Because of this, the atmosphere in the entire arena became particularly lively. Many spectators roared until their voices became hoarse, but the flush of excitement on their faces did not diminish at all. After another fierce collision, Barbassa's body was thrown away, and a large stone body on the mountain giant was shattered by the mace. Barbassa landed heavily, creating a shallow crater on the ground, and a trace of impatience flashed in his red eyes. In this arena, it was the first time that he had not defeated his opponent after fighting for such a long time, and was slightly at a disadvantage. This made him feel like he had faced the demon leader of the abyss. Roar! With a crazy roar, Barbassa finally stopped hiding. The strong demonic aura erupted from his body, and his body continued to mutate, finally revealing his demonic form. By the time the mutation ended, Barbassa had completely transformed into a demon. In the thick smoke, Barbassa's humanoid body was torn apart, and a layer of rich blood and fire filled the skin. On the ferocious head, 2 huge amounts of corners stood, and a blazing flame was blazing above his head. Combustion. The blood fire spread, covering the sub-artifact mace in Barbassa's hand. The already red mace was fully activated by the blood fire, and it became like a red-hot iron, showing the true terrifying power of the sub-artifact weapon. You are the first opponent to force me to show my true nature as a demon. Today I will make you feel the fear of death like never before. Barbassa, who revealed his demonic form and whose strength increased dramatically, stared at the mountain giant with his red eyes, and his words were indeed as cold as the abyss. Before the mountain giant could speak, Barbassa had turned into a shadow of blood and fire and rushed towards the mountain giant. Barbassa, who had fully exploded in strength, was even faster. The afterimage made of blood and fire easily dodged the huge rocky palm suddenly grabbed by the mountain giant. He leapt high and carried the wolf with the unique flame demon flame. The dental club attack landed firmly on the mountain giant's head. Boom! Under the nervous gaze of countless pairs of eyes, the mountain giant's huge amounts of rock had suddenly exploded, turning into spreading and broken stones that flew everywhere. At this point, the outcome of the battle seemed to be doomed. Without its head, the huge body of the mountain giant was unable to fall down, and it hit the ground with a muffled sound. Lord Thal, it seems that I won our bet. In the tall and distinguished stands, Gao Tianzun's eyes flashed with excitement, and he spoke to Thal with a face full of joy. Gao Tianzun couldn't help but be excited about a tailor-made artifact and the son of the creation god. Gao Tianzun, you are too anxious. The battle is not over yet. Thrall's expression did not change in any way due to the fall of the mountain giant, and remained calm and calm. What? Sal's words made Gao Tianzun and many of the audience behind him slightly stunned. Is Sal planning to default on his debt? However, seeing Thrall's calm and confident eyes still on the field, everyone turned their attention to the headless mountain giant in the arena with confusion. Everyone only saw the surface, but Thrall's perception was quite clear that the aura of the mountain giant had not dissipated. The special energy located at the core of the mountain giant's body is fluctuating violently. Lord Thal, but the mountain giant has Just when Gao Tianzun was puzzled and was about to speak, the huge body of the originally silent mountain giant suddenly shook. Pieces of rocks that shattered from the mountain giant also rolled wildly with the violent vibrations, and converged towards the fallen body of the mountain giant. An extremely heavy momentum spread quietly in the field. The one who felt the most profound thing was Barbossa, who had just killed the mountain giant. His flaming eyes were full of doubts and astonishment. Just now he exploded completely and killed the mountain giant with one blow. Now the blood and fire on his body has gradually faded, and his aura is also declining. However, why did the mountain giant that had been killed change like this? Under everyone's gaze, an earthy yellow light gradually emerged from the rubble on the ground, returning to the broken body of the mountain giant. I am the king of the mountains, the immortal. The huge and dull sound was like thunder, resounding from deep within the ground of the arena. This strange sound put a look of disbelief on everyone's faces. This turned out to be the voice of the dead king of the mountain. In the midst of countless shocked gazes, the body of the mountain king who was supposed to be dead was filled with a deep yellow light. All the rolling gravel condensed under this light and reassembled the mountain king's body. The king of the mountain stood up again. Moreover, the king of the mountain at the moment was wrapped in rich dark yellow energy. This energy continuously poured out from the ground and acted on its body, giving people a feeling of being extremely heavy and indestructible. As long as my body touches the ground, I will remain immortal. The king of the mountains made a roaring sound from the body, and raised his arms high. Under this earth-yellow light, these arms were completely integrated, condensed together, and turned into a towering giant hammer. Roar! Accompanied by the roar of the mountain king, the huge amounts of rock hammer turned into an earthy phantom and violently smashed towards the Balur fire demon, whose blood and fire had almost completely faded. At the moment, Barbossa, the Balur fire demon, had already consumed 77% of his strength due to the full burst just now. If he wanted to use his previous rapidity to dodge this falling attack, it was obviously beyond his ability. In desperation, Balur's eyes turned red, and he almost completely disappeared. The blood and fire rekindled. At the critical moment, he had to fully activate the power of the sub-artifact. He tilted his mace in an attempt to block the mountain giant's killing blow. One strike. Boom! Condensing the extremely powerful power of the earth, the mountain giant's attack at the bottom of the box fell in an instant. This blow was the pinnacle of the mountain giant's blow. The incomparably powerful force enveloped the will of the entire land, and it was impossible for Barbossa's power at the end of his crossbow to resist. Amidst the dull explosion, the integrate mountain giant's arms submerged Barbossa's body with a blow, and little scarlet colors splashed out along with the bloody fire. The place where Barbossa was standing was hit by huge amounts of rock hammer, and it became a huge pit, with earth and rocks flying. Barbossa's body was in this huge pit. At this point in the battle, the outcome is completely decided. For a moment, crazy shouts rang out from the entire audience in the duel arena. As for Barbossa's life or death, no one in the tens of thousands of spectators in the arena cared. Because he is a loser. Gao Tianzun, it seems that I should win our bet. With a faint smile, Thal looked at Gao Tianzun, who was still standing there and had not yet come to his senses, and returned Gao Tianzun's previous words intact. This time, there will be no shocking reversal like before. Thal had noticed that Barbossa's aura was weakened under the ground hit by the giant hammer formed by the mountain giant's arms. Although he was not dead, he was seriously injured and could no longer fight. It's impossible. How can the player I trained so hard and at such a high cost lose? Gao Tianzun's lips trembled a little, and the reversal just now completely subverted his plan. At this point, he had completely lost the bet. Not only did he lose Thrall's only artifact, he also owed Thal a promise. And Barbossa, the Balrog he planned to confirm as the champion of this session. From being full of confidence at the beginning to being completely defeated now, Gao Tianzun experienced a huge change from heaven to hell in just a few moments. Hearing Thrall's words, Gao Tianzun had the urge to grab the ground with his head. He stared at the giant hammer transformed from the mountain giant's arms and slowly raised it, longing for Barbossa to once again dominate the big pit on the ground. Start and achieve a desperate comeback like a mountain giant. However, Gao Tianzun was obviously disappointed. After being hit with the full force of the giant hammer integrated by both arms of the mountain giant, the Balur fire demon in the giant pit was indeed still alive, but it was dripping with blood, and the bones in his arms were broken due to the resistance of this unparalleled force, and half of them were broken. The bone stubble pierced the flesh and blood flowed from the corner of the mouth. He looked extremely miserable. At this time, Barlow's fire demon was seriously injured and on the verge of death. If he didn't have excellent medicine to recover, he might even be immortal. The game is over, the winner is the mountain giant. The sound of the end of the game resounded throughout the arena, eliciting countless excited roars. Lord Thal, you win. When speaking, Gao Tianzun looked disappointed and unwilling. Gao Tianzun, if you are willing to admit defeat, then I will not be polite. Thal smiled slightly, and the nebula particles poured out, spreading and entangling Gao Tianzun's artifact as a bet, and pulled him to his side. In the field, when he saw that the Balur Balrog who had almost deathed him was only seriously injured under his full blow, the mountain giant was a little angry. The giant hammer that had been raised was raised again, obviously preparing to hit the target, and it was completely finished. This opponent. In the hands of the invincible king, you can die and repent. The mountain giant was unreasonable, and the giant hammer was once again filled with earthy energy, and it was about to fall. Stop it, the game is over. Thal was looking at the artifact, and from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a scene in the arena. Thinking that the Balur fire demon was a strong man trained by Gao Tianzun, and seeing Gao Tianzun's face, Thal made a favor, and his voice slowly spread, ordering the mountain giant to stop. However, the mountain giant has been overwhelmed by hatred and anger. He will not really stop against the Balur Balrog who killed him once just because of Thrall's words. No, under the ferocity, the earth-yellow light on the giant hammer formed by the mountain giant's arms became more intense, almost turning into substance, exuding a heavy pressure. At this moment, all the audience felt strong pressure and felt breathless, and the cheers turned into exclamations. No one could believe that the mountain giant dared to disobey Thrall's order and continue to take action. In order to completely kill the opponent with one blow, the mountain giant immediately launched with all his strength, shaking the space with his giant hammer and slamming it down resolutely. The scene of the mountain giant going crazy caused a gleam in Thrall's eyes, which was originally indifferent. Lord Thal, Gao Tianzun was also stunned. He didn't expect that the mountain giant would dare to attack so brazenly and speak. However, Thal's seat was already empty. Immediately afterwards, a huge amount of explosions resounded throughout the arena. Boom! This explosive sound formed a substantial sound wave and spread in all directions. Its power was so powerful that it shook the entire arena. Most of the spectators sitting in the front row of the auditorium close to the arena could not bear the powerful aftermath, and their bodies were thrown away and rolled backwards. For a time, panic filled the entire arena. When shockwave completely dissipated, everyone turned their attention to the arena and saw a scene they would never forget. The giant rock hammer formed by the integrated arms of the mountain giant did not really fall, but was fixed in midair. Because, under the giant rock hammer, there was a figure standing in the air, gently stretching out a finger and pressing it against the giant hammer, preventing it from making any progress. The mountain giant's frantic attack was actually received firmly by Thal with just one finger. Didn't you hear what I just said? In the suffocating silence, Thal's voice sounded clearly, as calm as a lake frozen for thousands of years, without any emotional fluctuations. His frenzied attack was unexpectedly received by Thal in an understatement, causing the madness in the mountain giant's eyes to quickly dissipate, and a trace of fear appeared. When he gradually regained his senses, the mountain giant realized that he was afraid. Facing Thal who could resist his attack with just one finger, he felt a coldness that penetrated into his bones. I didn't. In this extreme depression, the mountain giant felt that his body, which was as solid as gold and iron, was shaking uncontrollably. He hesitated and tried to explain. However, against Thrall's will there still be a chance? Nebula particles flowed out from Thal's feet where he stood in the air, and spread throughout the arena in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the mountain giant was shivering all over, and the earthy yellow light on his body suddenly dissipated. His greatest reliance, the connection with the land of Surtur, has been completely severed. The mountain giant's eyes were full of horror. He simply couldn't understand why he was standing on the ground of Sokka but couldn't feel the slightest fluctuation of the earth's veins, nor could he get any power from the earth. Looking down from the arena, the mountain giant at the moment looks like he is standing in the boundless starry sky. The ground beneath his feet is no longer the earth, but a bright star map. And Thal is the controller of this brilliant star map. I gave you a chance, but since you don't want to cherish it. Thal stared at the mountain giant calmly, and there was a hint of regret in Thrall's voice. Immediately, the star map flipped, the world was turned upside down, and the body of the mountain giant was completely engulfed in it. No, everyone's ears echoed with the mountain giant's last fearful roar before he was swallowed up by the star map, and his body was no longer visible. The fearful roar from the soul before the mountain giant disappeared made everyone shudder. At this moment, everyone felt like falling into an ice cave. But within a very short breath or two, the nebula particles subsided like a tide, and the scene of the arena became clear again. Everything is the same as before the battle ended, the only difference is the previously ferocious mountain giant had completely disappeared. In the moment just now, Thal used nebula particles to build a powerful field. In this field, the connection between the mountain giants and the earth was completely cut off. Without the support of the earth, the mountain giant's ability became rootless duckweed, and the almost immortal power of communicating with the earth in his body was completely unable to be exerted. Under the terrifying devouring ability of the nebula particles, it directly turned into a pure energy becomes Thrall's boost. Facing countless pairs of astonished eyes, Thal glanced around calmly and gradually raised his body. Facing Thal's eyes that were as deep as cold pools, everyone who looked at them couldn't help but their hearts beat faster, and they quickly lowered their heads, not daring to face Thal at all. The cheering stopped completely, and everyone was too afraid to kick. All that was left in their hearts was awe and awe. The mountain giant who completely disappeared taught everyone a lesson with his life. The will of the Son of the Creation God does not tolerate any disobedience or violation. Even Gao Tianzun, who was at the top of the stand, looked a little restrained. He lost his usual laughter and became much more solemn. When facing Thal's gaze, he showed a bit of respect. After looking around, Thrall's eyes finally stopped at the Balur fire demon not far away from him, covered in blood and with a sluggish breath. At the moment, the Balur demon looked at Thal with too many things in his eyes. Respect, adoration, awe and a deep plea and a desire that burns like blood and fire. This look that contained so much made Thal's face move slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised an undetectable arc. Through the eyes of Balo Yanmo, he could detect the incomparable obsession and unwillingness in Balo Yanmo's heart. Although Thal didn't know the past of Balur Fire Demon, the look in his eyes spoke volumes. After a slight pause, Thal raised his palm and pointed at the Balur on the ground. A nebula particle turned into majestic divine power and surged out from between Thal. Before Balur Balrog could react, he was hit by this blue beam containing majestic divine power. For the Balur Balrog, who was only planet level and seriously injured, the divine power contained in Thrall's finger was endless. The sudden bulging feeling filled his body, making him feel like his body could not bear it and exploded. The illusion came, and then he roared lowly. This divine power is pure and majestic, exuding an aura that makes all living beings worship it, and it contains a very small trace of Thrall's essence. But just such a burst of divine energy was enough to bring the seriously injured Barbassa back to life and undergo earth-shaking changes. Bathed in the light of divine power, all the previous injuries of Barbassa, who was roaring in a low voice, were rapidly recovering one by one. Even the broken arm with exposed bone stubble was also rapidly growing and recovering. An increasingly powerful momentum was brewing in Barbassa's body. At this time, how could everyone still not understand that Barbassa was extremely lucky? As a loser, he was favored by the Son of the Creation God, and he did not hesitate to use his divine power to help him recover from serious injuries and dying. Status restored. Boom! On Barbassa, whose body had fully recovered, the devil's true form was revealed again, the blood and fire were rekindled, and huge amounts of horns continued to grow. Above Barbassa's head, a strange flame symbolizing the origin of the devil was burning fiercely. In the core of the original blood-red flame, there was a trace of blue light, which looked extremely strange. Roar! After the energy from Thrall's finger was completely absorbed by Barbassa's metamorphosis, Barbassa roared to the sky. The roar was filled with unparalleled excitement and joy, and the strong momentum exploded wantonly, much stronger than before. This powerful aura erupted, almost forming a real storm, which continued to spread, and even the auditorium outside the arena was greatly affected. Audiences with a certain level of strength and keen eyesight can find that in the storm that envelopes Barbaça, there is a demonic shadow that towers over the sky and keeps roaring and roaring, which is heart-stirring. In this storm, the Balur fire demon spread his arms and roared at the sky. The terrifying power in his body gave Barlow the fire demon a strong feeling. If he faced the demon leader who almost killed him in his current state, he could crush him and kill him effortlessly. After the storm of momentum dissipated, a tall body half knelt on the ground facing Sal's direction. "Lord Thal, my real name is Dilla Azak Rama, and I want to be your most loyal subordinate." A voice that only Sal could hear sounded in Sal's ears in the form of spiritual power, causing a smile to gradually appear on Sal's face. As we all know, real names are extremely important to demons. Mastering a demon's true name is equivalent to controlling his body and soul. He can force the demon to do anything at will, even asking him to commit suicide. He cannot refuse. Being able to tell Thal his real name is enough to prove Barbaça's fanatical worship and loyalty to Thal. When Balur was at his most desperate in his career as a fire demon, Thal gave him hope and gave him the terrifying power that he had struggled to possess all his life. With the power given by Thal, the Balur Balrog can take revenge. Moreover, with the help of the divine power seeds, Barbaça's potential has been greatly developed, and his future achievements will definitely surpass most demons in the Abyss. Facing the Abyss Lord who had almost killed him once again, Barbaça was confident enough that he could easily tear the opponent apart. It was precisely because of this that Barbaça told Thal his real name without hesitation, hoping that Thal would give him a chance to follow him. Sal chuckled, and did not immediately agree to Barbaça's request. Instead, he raised his gaze and fell on Gao Tianzun, whose eyes were somewhat complicated. "Gao Tianzun, in our bet, in addition to a divine weapon, there is also a condition that the other party can fulfill, right?" Thal asked. Thrall's voice was clear, and was not deliberately concealed. Everyone in the quiet arena could hear it clearly, and there was a sudden gasp. What kind of wealthy person can use an artifact as a bet? And that's not all, there is also a condition that both parties can do. On the one hand, he is the son of the Creator God, and on the other hand, he is a member of the Universal Council of Elders. Such an identity is enough to accomplish many things. Looking at the current situation, it seems that Gao Tianzun has lost this bet. Gao Tianzun was stunned for a moment, then nodded with a wry smile. "Lord Thal, I don't know what I can do for you. I'm just an elder of the universe with no abilities." Before the bet, Gao Tianzun never expected such a result. Now that Sal mentioned it, he was a little cautious for a moment and could only look helpless. "Don't worry, I won't embarrass you. My conditions are very simple. From now on, you will send the champions of every Sokka championship to my sphere of influence. As long as they are willing to offer eternal loyalty, they will be given the qualification to follow." Thal chuckled. The reason why he made the bet was not the impoverished Gao Tianzun at all, but the powerful warrior who had experienced countless battles and emerged from the blood in the championship battle. "What?" Gao Tianzun was stunned by the conditions proposed by Sal, with a look of astonishment on his face. If Thal hadn't said it, no matter what he thought, he would never have thought that Thal would reach out to the gladiators in the championship battle. In a few flashes of thought, the old and mature Gao Tianzun had fully reacted and understood the reason why Thal suddenly came to Thal. After thinking about this, Gao Tianzun's evaluation of Thal improved a lot, and he secretly lamented Thrall's city and strategy. However, despite losing the bet, Gao Tianzun only admired Sal. If Thal insists on relying on his strength and status to force Gao Tianzun to hand over the artifact and agree to send every championship fight to Thrall's sphere of influence, Gao Tianzun may not have any way to refuse. However, Sal did not use force to overwhelm others, but chose a peaceful approach, causing Gao Tianzun to lose the bet easily. Now, in front of tens of thousands of spectators, Gao Tianzun has no way to go back on his words. "Lord Thal, I admire your wisdom and insight. I am willing to admit defeat, as you wish." While speaking, Gao Tianzun's face showed a more sincere and respectful expression than before. "Okay, Gao Tianzun, a bet is a bet. I have another thing for you to do. Definitely, as long as you help me with your heart, I will never treat you badly. Sal also had a faint smile on his face. He originally thought that Gao Tianzun would hesitate and even bargain for his conditions, but Gao Tianzun agreed so readily, which also made Sal have a good impression of him. Lord Thal, please speak. I want you to help me pay attention to all the clues of the infinite gems in the universe. Once you have definite information, notify me immediately. If you conceal it. Thrall's face became a little more serious when he said this. A few infinite gems were very important to Thal. Lord Thal, please rest assured, I will definitely try my best. Feeling Sal's seriousness, Gao Tianzun also solemnly promised. If Thal was the son of the creation god who only knew how to use force to overwhelm others, Gao Tianzun might not be too concerned. But after the bet, Gao Tianzun's view of Thal has changed by huge amounts, and that's why he made such a solemn promise. Definitely, as long as you do your best, I won't let you suffer. I owe you a favor. I will consider taking action when necessary. Thal nodded with satisfaction. He also said this to the collector. Making eye contact with Sal, Gao Tianzun and Sal both smiled. Barbassa, did you hear what Gao Tianzun and I said? After reaching an agreement with Gao Tianzun, Thal looked condescendingly at Barbassa, who was still half kneeling on the ground respectfully. Yes, Lord Thal, I will definitely win this championship. Barbassa's figure is low and persistent, with a strong and firm belief. With Salmo's help, his strength has changed by huge amounts, giving Barbassa plenty of confidence. If he still couldn't win this championship, how could he have the nerve to follow Thal? Okay, I'm waiting. If you can become the champion, I will give you the qualification to follow me. I can also tell you the news that the dwarf family in the universe who are good at casting artifacts have become my subordinates. As long as you perform well, if it satisfies me, I can even order the dwarf clan to create a custom-made artifact for you. Feeling Barbassa's determination, Thal nodded secretly. A subordinate who is tenacious, doesn't give up easily when encountering setbacks, and has a discerning eye is what Sal needs. Thank you, Lord Thal. Hearing Sal's words, Barbassa was overjoyed, with huge amounts of surprise on his face, and he quickly saluted Sal respectfully. The tens of thousands of spectators present also witnessed this scene, and they all cast envious glances at this lucky guy, Barbassa. The opportunity to be appreciated by the son of the creation god and promised a divine weapon is such a blessing that hundreds of millions of people cannot ask for. Thrall's arrival was like a shot in the arm, making the whole of Sokka excited. What Gao Tianzun didn't expect was that as soon as Thrall's promised conditions came out, the challengers who volunteered to participate in the Sokka Championship battle almost passed the registration venue threshold. Moreover, as the news spread, the number of challengers who volunteered to participate was increasing day by day. More and more challengers came from all corners of the universe, making Sokka become a hot treasure for a while. The special geographical environment of Sokkata determines the occlusion of the news. It has not been long since the bet between Gao Tianzun and Thal, and the transmission of the news is limited to Sokka and the surrounding star fields. If this news truly spreads throughout the universe and reaches those powerful forces, the repercussions will definitely be even greater. The more powerful the force, the more they understand how important the promise of being the son of the creation god is. By then, I'm afraid there will be countless people trying to send the best clansmen among their forces to participate in the championship battle, just to compete for the only opportunity in each session to follow Thal. For a force or a group, as long as one of them can follow Thal, the benefits will not only be for the individual but for the entire group. After all, it's easy to enjoy the shade under a big tree, and all fools understand this. Similarly, in addition to being favored by major forces, many cosmic loners who consider themselves powerful in combat are also very excited. As long as you can win a championship, you will be qualified to follow the son of the creation god. If you perform well enough, you can even get a tailor-made artifact from Thal. This is not just about glory, but a powerful shortcut for those who pursue strength. Definitely, such an opportunity can be obtained not only by having a hard-working heart, but also by having strong strength, the courage to go to the most desperate place, and luck. Thal didn't know about Sokka's explosive situation. At this time, he was already heading towards the next stop with the Starry Sky Beast. This trip to Sokka can be said to be quite successful. After achieving his goal, Thal originally had no interest in the championship battle, and there was nothing in the barren space garbage station that Thal liked, so Thal did not stay long. Thal's next stop is one of the 9 realms, the flame world ruled by the flame giant. Thal has given comprehensive consideration to such a trip. Whether it is Nebula or Sokka, Thal's purpose of going there is just to build a powerful force in the future. In these 2 places, Thal himself had nothing good except the artifact from Gao Tianzun. At the moment, Thal was sitting on the generous back of the starry sky beast, playing with the artifact he won from Gao Tianzun in a bet. Although this artifact didn't have much fame, Thal was filled with joy after getting it. Whether the artifact's original bonus to attack power is strong or not is of little significance to Thal. He possesses nebula particles. In addition to the terrifying devouring ability, his attacks can also be kaleidoscopic shapeshift. Ordinary artifacts are completely cumbersome and serve no other purpose than serving as food. But this artifact is different. The attributes contained in it, Thal has confirmed after obtaining it, are indeed similar to what he guessed. It can be regarded as an extremely powerful annihilation attribute. With the special ability of nebula particles, swallowing artifacts with the attribute of annihilation will add the ability of annihilation to Thal's attacks, and the attack power will be greatly increased in the blink of an eye. Before coming to the world of flames, let's swallow this artifact completely. After briefly calculating the itinerary, Thal pondered slightly. With the powerful swallowing ability of the nebula particles, before the starry sky beast arrives in the world of flames, he has plenty of time to completely swallow this artifact and obtain the annihilation attribute in it. Nebula particles filled the air and soon completely enveloped the entire artifact. Under the powerful devouring ability, Thal only felt waves of strange special energy pouring into his body. This was Thal's first contact with this kind of annihilation attribute energy. Although it did not have super attack power, after entering his body, it was comparable to several other attribute energies in Thal's body. As he continued to devour, Thal was also quickly realizing and understanding the mystery of annihilation. The annihilation attribute is not as sharp as the sharpness Thal obtained before, but when used in battle, the effect is definitely no less sharp. It can crush, destroy, and annihilate matter, and it is extremely domineering. As Thal devoured and understood more, his understanding of annihilation also gradually deepened. Conventional annihilation starts from the material form, dissects the molecules and even atoms of the material, and directly tears and destroys the basic structure to achieve the purpose of annihilation. Reaching an extremely high level of annihilation, its power will undergo earth-shaking changes. After perfect control, it can even completely erase a space and reach absolute nothingness. As the devouring process progresses, there is not much energy left in the artifact, and bits and pieces of dark green light gradually appear among the nebula particles surrounding the artifact. This dark green color may not be detectable unless you observe carefully, but it represents the characteristic of annihilation. By now, Thal's nebula particles already possess several powerful attributes. The power of the gods obtained from the star core that gave birth to divine power, the sharpness obtained by swallowing a large number of Sovereign's golden energy cells, the power of the earth obtained by killing the mountain giants who disobeyed him in Sokka, and now the ability of annihilation. With these special attributes, Thal can control and cooperate as he pleases during battle. He can combine them to attack, or he can simply attack with one ability. Their power cannot be underestimated. According to Thal's understanding of nebula particles, this powerful ability inherited from Galactus has almost unlimited potential and growth. As long as it devours enough energy sources at the energy level, this ability can be derived from it. If you swallow one kind of attribute energy, you can launch an attack of this energy. If you swallow 10 kinds of attribute energy, you can launch 10 kinds of attacks of different attributes. You can also combine the 10 energies at will, or even integrate them all to launch a super attack. What if one day he swallowed thousands of attribute energies and controlled them perfectly? Thal believes that he is strong enough to fight even the 5 creation gods who represent the original power of the universe. Thinking of this, Thal felt his heart surge, and he had an urgent urge to constantly search for powerful attribute energy to devour. Thal, who was sitting on the back of the starry sky beast, suddenly opened his eyes, 2 rays of light disappeared from his eyes, and all his thoughts and emotional fluctuations were quickly suppressed by Thal. A person's character can determine his future height. Determined and persistent, with unlimited ambition, but knowing not to aim too high, taking each step by step, and walking steadily and steadily, this is the way Thal has chosen to rise. The world of fire, the full name of Muspelheim, means eternal flame. However, the real world of flames is not as imagined, burned by flames all year round, but a desolate land with extremely high temperatures. The land of this world, shrouded in unusually blazing high temperatures, has become cracked, rather stiff and fragile. It is difficult for plants to grow on such land. The surface is crisscrossed with ravines. From the huge amounts of gaps, you can see that these ravines extend all the way towards the depths of the ground. There are even looming firelights in some terrifying cracks, which are underground flows of magma. It is such a world, but many creatures live in it. Most of these creatures are naturally derived from the strange energy of the flame world and take the form of humans or beasts. All flame creatures have one thing in common. There is an explosive aura all over their bodies, and most of them are dim red. Because the energy in the world is originally fiery, all living beings are also quite violent in character. Fights and deaths can be seen everywhere. Flame creatures with varying strengths continue to improve through this cruel fighting, killing their opponents and devouring their bodies and energy, making themselves stronger and their life levels evolving. After experiencing countless killings, devouring and evolving, the lucky flame creatures will gradually form the most primitive social form, with the strong dominating and enslaving the weak, progressing step by step. The one who stands at the top of this world is revered as the Fire King, named Surtur. At his peak, Surtur had the top level of strength in his eyes. Coupled with a powerful artifact called the Twilight Sword in his hand, he could even fight the god King Odin. He is also one of Thal's goals during this trip. As the huge figure of the starry sky beast slowly descended from the sky, Thal also exhaled and looked at the devastated land under his feet. As the starry sky beast's strength continued to increase, its speed also increased greatly, and it arrived at the world of flames much earlier than Thal expected. Powerful spiritual power surged out of Thal, spreading in all directions, and began to perceive this strange world. Sure enough, without the eternal fire, there is indeed a lack of vitality in the world of fire. In Thal's perception, although this world appears to be a desolate scene, it contains huge amounts of flame energy. Even deep underground in the flame world, the area with the strongest energy, the energy there the level has reached enough to allow the nebula particles to give birth to new attribute light points. Otherwise, there would be no endless flame life being born. However, from the perspective of the world as a whole, there is indeed something defective in it, like a perfect circle with an intersection suddenly cut off. Although it will not cause the entire circle to collapse, it is still missing something. According to Thal's understanding, this is the spirit of vitality, which allows the flame creatures to have intelligent vitality. The energy distribution of the flame world is different from other conventional worlds. The most powerful energy core is located in the deepest depths of the earth, but above the surface, the blazing flame energy is not so rich. It is precisely because of this that most of the people living on the surface are the lowest level creatures in the flame world. Apart from the most primitive survival instincts, these lowest level flame creatures can hardly see any gleam of wisdom, and they don't even have any strategies in battle. The huge body of the starry sky beast cast a shadow of huge amounts under the dark red sun, attracting the attention of many flame creatures. To them who have no intelligence, these huge amounts of starry sky beasts are enemies and nutrients to be devoured. The starry sky beasts were discovered. Crazy roars and provocative screams came from the mouths of these ordinary flame creatures. There were even many flame creatures trying to find high ground, jumping up with all their strength and trying to pounce on the starry sky beasts above the body. As a powerful starry sky beast, its strength has reached the strongest level among planets, but it was provoked by these most rubbish flame creatures. The starry sky beast could not hold back its violent temper. At that moment, it let out a menacing dragon roar. Huge amounts of sound waves came from the mouth of the starry sky beast, resounding through this barren land. The actual sound waves formed by the sound waves spread like water waves, completely covering up the noisy and crazy roars of all the flame creatures. The dragon roared incessantly, and the powerful sound waves not only blew these weak flame creatures around, but even the earth trembled under the sound waves. With the great strength of the starry sky beast, it is also very aggressive when roaring in anger. The weakest flame creature had begun to stagger and lose consciousness amidst the constant roar of the dragon. What's more, it was bleeding from all its orifices, and its brain and internal organs were shaken with cracks. The ravines on the earth could not withstand such terrifying dragon roars. They began to collapse amid the continuous tremors. A large amount of hard earth and stone began to break rapidly once cracks appeared. In response to the dragon roar of the starry sky beast, Thal was still the old god sitting on its back. Based on his character, these trashy flame creatures cannot shake his state of mind at all. The behemoths in the starry sky can shock you a little, but this can also prevent these mindless things from being noisy by their followers. His perception spread all the way deep underground, looking for the core location with the strongest energy. If nothing else, Fire King Surtur is recuperating in that area. At that time, the iron hooves of the divine army traveled across the 9 realms. Although the Fire King had the most powerful eternal fire in the flame world and the artifact Twilight Sword, there was still a certain gap compared with the super strong Odin of level Godfather. Therefore, the eternal fire controlled by Surtur was deprived by Odin. Surtur, whose strength was greatly damaged and severely injured, could only be forced to succumb to Odin's power. Countless years have passed, and although Surtur's injuries have long since recovered, without the eternal fire, which is the most critical element in the world of fire, the world has become defective. Surtur's strength has also been affected by huge amounts of, and he can only survive. If the eternal fire cannot be regained, it will be impossible to regain the peak combat effectiveness of the past. Found it. Under Sal's strong perception, he quickly locked onto a powerful aura, which contained the power of a king's flames, but at the moment it seemed very sluggish, and it was definitely Surtur. At the moment, Surtur had obviously noticed something strange on the ground and had woken up from his semi-slumber. However, Surtur did not rashly set off directly to the ground. Instead, he discharged several powerful flame creatures and quickly headed towards the ground. When he was no longer in his prime, he became much more cautious in doing things. These few auras that quickly headed to the surface were much more powerful than the scumbags who staggered under the dragon roar of the giant beast in the starry sky. According to Sal's estimation, Surtur was planning to test his own identity. Thinking of this, Sal had a sneer on his face. If you want to test it, let me shock you. Soon, several men sent by Surtur to test Thal appeared on the surface. Huge gaps can be seen everywhere on the earth, which can lead directly to the ground. These powerful flame creatures appeared from the gaps. Compared with the garbage that can be seen everywhere on the surface, the skin color of several flame creatures is more like the fiery color of lava, their bodies are much larger, and the aura on their bodies is even different. When several figures stood together, the surrounding temperature increased a lot. After these flame creatures appeared, their eyes quickly fell on the starry sky beast that made the sound of dragon roar in the sky. Seeing the terrifying and ferocious body of the starry sky beast, their eyes all showed a bit of fear and vigilance, and they did not act rashly for a while. Obviously, their strength is not only far beyond the lowest level of flame creatures on the surface, but in terms of intelligence, they are definitely not comparable to these scum who only have instincts. In Thrall's perception, the strength of these flame creatures is roughly on par with, or even better than, the Earth heroes Captain United States and the Winter Soldier he has seen in movies. Surtur just sent a few of you losers to test me. Seeing several flame creatures cautiously approaching the starry sky beast while looking for the right moment to launch an attack, Thal couldn't help but laugh. Surtur, is he looking down on himself too much? Amidst the roars of countless unintelligent flame creatures, Thrall's gaze swept across the entire scene with almost no fluctuations. Everyone kneeled down. As Thrall's oracle-like voice echoed, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Thrall's body. At this moment, Thal no longer concealed his true power. The terrifying aura of level sub-godfather rose up, roaring towards all creatures on the ground. Under the chasm-like gap in power and strength level, Thrall's fully displayed momentum was as deep as the sea to the flame creatures on the surface, just like facing a true god, with an unmatchable deterrent. Plop, plop, kept sounding. The flame creatures that were roaring and roaring just now all fell to the ground under this unparalleled momentum and were crushed heavily to the ground. They couldn't even let out a whimper. In fact, the momentum released by Thal did not deliberately target these mindless flame creatures. The main targets of oppression were the few flame creatures sent by Surtur to test them. The pressure that makes ordinary flame creatures lie on the ground is just the aftermath of the pressure. Under this unparalleled pressure, the several flame creatures sent by Surtur to test them didn't even have time to make any move before they felt the space-carrying indescribable pressure coming towards their bodies from any angle. This pressure was like a terrifying millstone in the hands of ghosts and gods, crushing their bodies inch by inch. Even if they have powerful bodies comparable to those of Earth's heroes Captain the United States and the Winter Soldier, their flesh and bones are still unbearable under the millstone formed by the pressure. As the pressure continues to increase, they emit a heart-wrenching sound. Creak, sound. Only these flame creatures can deeply understand what pain and fear are. Under the pressure of Thral's rising momentum, the skin on their bodies began to crack, their flesh was exposed, and fiery red blood flowed freely. Then came the bones, which broke under the overwhelming load. The broken bones pierced the flesh and internal organs, and then penetrated out of the body. The extreme pain caused by this process made several flame creatures that had grown up through countless battles and killings unable to suppress the crazy roars originating from their souls. The fear contained in the sharp sounds made those on the surface of the earth who only have instincts. All fire creatures tremble. Under the pressure of Thral's momentum, the wailing and screaming of these powerful flame creatures did not last long before they turned into mangled corpses with bloody flesh. Deep underground, in the huge amounts of empty space, Surtur was sitting on the throne, feeling a little sluggish. When Thral's momentum fully unfolded, the flames in his eyes became blazing, and the shock and fear in them were clear. Level sub-godfather. And he is the most powerful one among level sub-godfathers. From the first moment, Surtur was 100% sure that even at his peak, the newcomer's strength would definitely threaten huge amounts of opponents. Although Surtur is still unclear about Thral's specific purpose of coming to the Fire World, he is certain that since Thal killed the men he sent out to test without any hesitation, he definitely did not come to him to drink tea and make friends. Thinking of this, Surtur's eyes were solemn and complicated, and he fell into a brief pause. Without the eternal fire, with his current strength, he is definitely no match for Thal. Now that the other party has come to the door, he can't escape at any cost. Countless years ago, Surtur tasted a defeat. That time, he lost the eternal fire and paid an unimaginable heavy price. The now depressed Surtur can no longer afford any failure. Thinking of this, Surtur suddenly stood up from the throne. The sharp horn-like crown on his head was shining brightly, and a strange kingly aura quickly filled the entire underground space. This crown is a symbol of Surtur's supreme status and power in the world of fire. No native creature in this world can disobey the orders issued by the crown. Along with the strange fluctuations coming from Surtur's crown, huge amounts of commotion appeared in the entire underground world, and countless flame creatures gathered towards the location of Surtur's palace. The flame creatures that are qualified to survive in the underground space must have reached a certain level of strength and have been born with a certain level of intelligence. The strength of each of these beings is not much different from the flame creatures that were crushed by Thral's momentum just now. This is the real backbone of the flame world. More and more flame creatures gathered, standing respectfully in Surtur's palace, waiting for the Lord of Fire's orders. At first glance, the swarming fiery red ferocious figures numbered at least tens of thousands, like a sea of flames. Roar. As more and more flame creatures gathered, a roar shook the dome of the underground space. Along with the explosion of flames, behind Surtur's throne, there was a huge amount of flames rising from the body of the figure. This is a strange monster, with red eyes full of cruel and explosive colors, huge amounts of head, a ferocious head, a pair of huge goat-like horns, a pair of thick flesh wings on its back, and its whole body covered in flames, shrouded. Fire dragon, take my army of flames and rush out of the surface to kill the foreign invaders. The crown shines brightly. Surtur glances around, and holds the twilight sword in his hand high, with the red tip pointed straight into the sky. Bouncing. There were sounds of several chains being broken, and the fire dragon behind Surtur had already risen into the sky. Behind it, followed by a flaming army formed by a tide of flame creatures. An army of countless flame creatures surged out of the ground, causing the dry and cracked earth to begin to shake. This vibration spread from the ground, causing Thal to cry out. Surtur is really a coward. No wonder Odin took away the eternal fire. After all these years, he doesn't dare to take revenge. According to Thal's perception, what is causing the vibrations on the surface of nature? Thal sent a large number of fire creatures to death to consume him, and Thal despised Surtur's methods in his heart. For Thal, no matter how many ants there are, they can't shake the dragon that soars across the universe. Boom! Somewhere on the surface where the shaking became more intense, a large amount of hard and brittle land suddenly exploded, and a huge flaming figure rose into the sky with a roar. Following closely behind was a blazing army of densely packed flame creatures. Roar! When the fire dragon soared into the sky from the ground, the starry sky beast that Thal was sitting on also noticed the opponent's aura, and suddenly let out a loud dragon roar, and the terrifying aura erupted, with the anger of being majestic and provoked, and a pair of giant eyes staring at it. Looking at the thick fleshy wings fluttering in the sky, it looks like a fire dragon, like a goat that has been irradiated. A wave of emotion emanated from the starry sky beast and was clearly transmitted to Thal, who was slightly startled and then laughed. Since you want to move around, I leave this flame lizard to you. With Thal's permission, the starry sky beast could no longer hold back and pounced towards the fire dragon that dared to roar in front of it. Amidst the huge amounts of explosions, the starry sky beast and the fire dragon suddenly fought fiercely. Thal's indifferent eyes looked down at the army of flames rushing out from the ground. Surtur still doesn't dare to show up, but keeps sending out some soldiers and crabs to harass Thal, which has already made Thal a little impatient. Following Thal's cold snort, nebula particles that had not been shown for a long time surged out from Thal's body like the yellow river bursting its banks, and spread out in the dust-filled sky in the blink of an eye. At the moment, in the sky of the flame world, there is a dreamy sky like a nebula, and on the ground, there is an endless army of flame creatures. The hostility between the two is like the confrontation between heaven and earth, and the momentum is extremely chilling. It seems that in the next moment, heaven and earth will violently collide together, and the world will be destroyed. Let you feel my anger. Thal's voice represents the will of heaven. As this voice comes out, the shape of the thick nebula particle suddenly changes, and quickly condenses into a long and sharp spear. The tip of the spear flashed with a strange golden light, aiming at the countless flame creatures on the ground. As the nebula particles in the sky transformed into countless spears, the ultimate sharp aura emerged. Suddenly burst out. Chapter 51. Just the sharpness of the spears all over the sky gave all the flame creatures a terrifying feeling of standing on the mountain of swords and being shattered to pieces at any time, and even the roars and roars were much quieter. On each nebula spear, all the sharp energy gathered at the tip of the spear, forming a bright golden light. The sharp energy condensed by the nebula spears all over the sky was about to pierce the world. The mottled surface of the flame world was unable to stop the sharp energy from erupting. Even Surtur, the Lord of Fire deep underground, felt his face change drastically when he felt the terrifying sharpness. How can you be so strong? Since being defeated by Odin, Surtur has been hiding in the world of fire for countless years. This is the first time he has felt such a terrifying threat, which makes his face extremely gloomy. As the sharp energy became more powerful, even Surtur felt on pins and needles, and the gloomy eyes gradually gained a bit of determination and severity. At a certain moment, Surtur seemed to have made up his mind. He moved his body and turned into a flame afterimage, shooting towards the core with the strongest energy in the Earth's core with determination. At that moment, the sharpness of the nebula spear in the sky of the flame world had reached its peak. Even some of the fine brittle hard rocks on the surface were unable to withstand it and began to shatter and turn into powder. Looking down at the land coldly, Thal's face was indifferent, and with a thought, spears filled the sky with a whistling sound, and rained down. Countless spears fell instantly. Because the speed was too fast, only a faint afterimage and a dazzling golden point on the spear tip could be seen. These golden colors cover the sky and the earth. From the perspective of a bystander, it looks like a grand meteor shower streaking across the night sky, which is really beautiful. However, this charming scene contains the ultimate murderous intention. The bright meteor shower arrived in the blink of an eye, and amid the sound of "pist," the spear penetrated the bodies of the flaming creatures without any suspense. Heavy rain hits the banana trees and destroys them. At this moment, countless lives made their final sounds and withered in the ultimate brilliance. Molten blood bloomed on the bodies of countless flame creatures that had been penetrated, revealing the last desolate beauty before death. The force of Nebula's spear falling coupled with the ultimate penetrating power given by its sharpness attribute, after penetrating through the bodies of countless flame creatures, it barely stopped and broke through all the way. The hard land that had been burned by the flames for countless years was as fragile as tissue paper in front of this terrifying nebula spear, and densely packed deep holes appeared. How can these scum-like flame creatures resist the attack caused by the explosion of level sub-Godfather's strength? Ants can never fight against the power of God. Before dying, the only thing all fire creatures can do is scream and wail. As the waves of Nebula's spear shot past, the entire world fell into deathly silence. Whether they were ordinary creatures living on the surface or the backbone forces ordered by Surtur to attack Thal, they were all destroyed under Thral's wrath. After going tens of meters deep into the ground, the power of the nebula spear gradually slowed down, and then transformed into the shape of a stream of nebula particles. Under Thral's control, it flowed out from deep holes one after another, spreading through all the nebula. The body of life. When the tide formed by the nebula particles faded under Thral's control, the countless flame creature bodies on the ground had dissipated, and they had all become the energy enhanced by the nebula particles. With one blow, the originally noisy surface of the flame world turned into a land of deathly silence, with not even a trace of thousands of flame creatures left. Only the scarred earth proves everything that happened just a moment ago. In this world, apart from Thal, the ruler, there are only fire dragons and starry sky beasts who are still fighting fiercely in the sky. Thal had no intention of intervening in the battle between the starry sky beast and the fire dragon. In his perception, the starry sky beast is originally powerful, and its devouring evolutionary bloodline is far superior to the fire dragon. In addition, he has been lavishly feeding it with energy batteries, so that the starry sky beast also has traces in its attacks. A sharp breath. Although the sharp attributes controlled by the starry sky beast are not comparable to Thal, when used on its minions, the power is quite powerful. On the other hand, although the fire dragon was powerful, it was innately suppressed by the bloodline of the starry sky beast. Coupled with Thral's devastating attack just now, it made its heart tremble, and its 10th level combat power was at most half. Under the circumstances, it was only a matter of time before the fire dragon was defeated and was killed by the starry sky beast. Much cleaner. Without the flame creatures everywhere, Thral's eyes were cold, looking at the broken earth, as if he had penetrated the surface and looked straight into the heart of the earth. It's really stable. Most of all the creatures in the flame world have been killed by him, but Surtur still cowers and dares not show up, which has aroused Thral's true anger. As Thal murmured, the tidal wave of nebula particles that swallowed countless flame creatures gathered again. This time, Thral's target is no longer thousands of fire creatures, but Surtur. With the rapid transformation and condensation of the nebula particles, the sharp energy became strong again, and a huge spear appeared in the sky. The overall length of this spear reached a terrifying several hundred meters, with a diameter of 10 meters and a long spear tip of nearly 50 meters, carrying unparalleled power. A bit of golden light on the tip of the spear went from dim to bright, and then became extremely dazzling. The sharp aura made the space where the tip of the spear was located unbearable, and it directly shattered. A series of pitch-black space cracks appeared and disappeared around the tip of the spear, and then reappeared. In the cracked space cracks, there was only deep nothingness, a mixture of tearing and destruction, and no trace of life. Surtur, since you don't want to show up, then I have to work harder and invite you out personally. Thal's cold voice sounded slowly. When the towering spears condensed, Surtur deep underground suddenly felt locked. Although his strength was damaged, his intuition was still there. At this moment, Surtur clearly felt that when this sharp and towering spear was activated, no matter where he was in the world of flames, the tip of the spear would die. Chase him to death. You forced me. Surtur's face was sinister, and he almost said this through gritted teeth. In Surtur's hand, there is a strange flame. Rather than a flame, it would be more appropriate to call it a small flame. This flame was taken out from the underground core and kept rolling and jumping in the palm of his hand. However, this little jumping flame, which seems to be extinguished by the wind at any time, exudes an eternal atmosphere. If Thal stood in front of Surtur, he would immediately judge from this breath that the fire was the eternal fire. Definitely, the real eternal fire has been taken away from the world of fire by Odin during the Divine War thousands of years ago, and is now placed in Odin's treasure house in the Divine Domain. This small flame was conceived again after thousands of years of the origin of the world of fire. Only when the fire turns into the real eternal fire can it feed back the world of fire and make this world complete again. This is also the reason why Surtur has been silent for thousands of years without any change. Originally, Surtur carefully protected and cultivated the eternal fire that was bred again by absorbing the power of the majestic galaxy from the origin of the world, and at the same time strengthened the backbone of the flame world and established a flame legion, just to one day take revenge on the divine realm and fulfill Ragnarok's prophecy. But now, the flame core he had cultivated for thousands of years had been wiped out by Thrall's blow. Even he himself was locked by the towering spear condensed by Thal, and was in danger of being killed at any time. Having no choice but to be forced into this situation, Surtur decided to fight to the death and took out this eternal fire that was not fully mature. Before being completely locked by Thrall's condensed towering spear, Surtur let out a roar. The eternal fire jumped in his palm, and he grabbed the horned master and pulled it to the top of his head. Be a minister. The moment the originally peaceful eternal fire entered Surtur's crown, a terrifying eternal aura suddenly burst out, and the crown instantly became fiery red. As the crown changed, Surtur's body was also filled with the blazing red color. The originally weak aura was swept away, and the burning red energy surged wildly in the body. Roar! Surtur, whose momentum changed drastically, let out a roar of pain mixed with joyful anger, causing the entire underground world to fight fiercely. The change in the ground happened suddenly. Thal focused on gathering the nebula spear and prepared to penetrate the surface to force Surtur out. For the time being, he could not clearly perceive everything under his feet, but the star had not yet grown. Already completely solidified. Go! Following Thrall's cold shout, huge amounts of spears seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand and driven hard towards the ground. The power of Nebula's spear exploded, exuding two powerful auras of thickness and sharpness. The sharpness of the spear tip penetrated everything, and the thickness of the spear body gave it the strength of 1,000 pounds. When it fell hard before it even touched the ground. It caused the whole land to tremble violently. At this moment, the world of flames seemed to have truly come to an end. There are terrible nebula spears falling from the sky, and there are great changes taking place in the center of the earth, such as Surtur integrate the eternal fire. One is in the sky and the other is on the earth, making the world tremble. Boom! The nebula spear fell so fast that in the blink of an eye the towering black light had already submerged into the earth's surface, completely shattering the earth. Standing high in the sky, you can only see the devastated land. There is a deep sinkhole that goes straight into the terrain. Dull and violent riots spread from it. Countless huge amounts of cracks are centered on this sinkhole and continue to spread in all directions. Drive away. The surface exploded, cracks spread, lava erupted, and the world trembled. The attack of a towering nebula spear almost completely shattered the land, sinking it into the endless flowing molten river in the center of the earth. Ignoring this apocalyptic scene, Thrall's perception penetrated the surface of the earth with the nebula spear. Amidst the violent tremors, it had penetrated countless rock layers and reached the center of the earth. Just when the towering spear was about to penetrate the entire surface of the earth and penetrate deep into the center of the earth where Surtur was, another extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted in the center of the earth. "Ant, if you ruin my countless years of plans, you will die." This voice, filled with endless anger and deep-seated hatred, resounded throughout the entire world of flames. Thrall's expression moved slightly. Through the perception attached to the nebula spear, he was keenly aware that the indestructible nebula spear was blocked by another powerful force. This power contains the majestic power of fire, which has also reached level sub-Godfather, and is on par with the energy level of the attack launched by nebula particles. Oh, the shy turtle is finally willing to show up, but his temper is quite bad. I don't know if he really has the ability to talk big. Surtur Rage's roar drew Thrall's disdainful glare. Not to mention that he knew that Surtur's strength was greatly damaged after losing the eternal fire. Even if Surtur's strength was not damaged, with Thal's confidence, Surtur's threat would not be ignored at all. The towering spear transformed by the nebula particles continued to advance, and the resistance it felt became stronger and stronger. It was obvious that Surtur used his true skills to forcibly intercept the spear. "Give it to me, explode." Thal sneered slightly and shouted in his heart. Following Thrall's voice, the entire world of flames suddenly overturned. It seemed as if a beast was awakening under the earth, and the surface of the Earth surged violently like water waves. This time, the originally broken Earth could no longer withstand the full-force collision of the two peak-level sub-godfathers and completely collapsed. Fortunately, the 9 realms are different from ordinary planets, and their origins are much tougher. Otherwise, this world would have been turned into a dead place by Thal and Surtur. Boom! Under the shattered ground, an extremely majestic flame formed a pillar of light and rose into the sky. A large amount of molten lava condensed and emitted terrifying fluctuations that pushed the fierce battle between the starry sky beast and the fire dragon to the edge of the sky. Level sub-godfather's peak strength has completely exploded. The current starry sky beasts and fire dragons are completely inadequate. Even the aftermath of the battle will cause them serious injuries. More and more molten magma splashes, gradually condenses, and transforms into Surtur's mountain-like huge amounts of body. The mottled magma body surface, with fiery red lines spreading, and the huge horn-like crown, with eternity. The breath of immortality, the fiery red runes condensed on a giant sword made of blazing lava, and the intense high temperature made the space faintly vibrate. Surtur finally showed his unparalleled power as the Lord of Fire. Surtur, it turns out you are left-handed. Don't you feel awkward fighting like this? Under this blazing fire that was as powerful as the power of heaven, only Thal had a calm expression. He calmly looked at the flame giant roaring up to the sky and made a joke. Thrall's voice made Surtur, who was roaring, suddenly stop roaring, and then the anger in his eyes became even more intense. At such a moment, this arrogant intruder didn't even know fear, and was still in the mood to pay attention to whether he was holding a sword in his left hand or his right. I, Fire King Surtur, swear by the eternal fire that I will kill you today, and your soul will endure the heat of hundreds of millions of years. Surtur was so angry that he didn't even look at the blood-soaked fire dragon in the sky who was beaten by the giant starry beast. His flaming eyes were all focused on Thrall's floating body in the sky. Stop bragging. If you were really sure of killing me, why didn't you get out at the beginning? Did you wait until I got rid of all the garbage under your hands before taking action? Facing Surtur, Thal had a bit of a sneer on his face and mocked him mercilessly. Although Thal didn't know why Surtur returned to his peak strength in an instant and exploded with the strength of level sub-godfather, that was all. Not enough to see. Die. Thrall's attitude has made Surtur extremely angry. He has no intention of continuing the verbal confrontation with Thal. The artifact in his hand exudes divine power, and Surtur grabs it with both hands and stabs Thal from a distance. The majestic fire attribute energy burst out from Surtur's body, and launched an attack through the artifact. A flame condensed to the extreme suddenly spurted out from the tip of the twilight sword. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Thal. Compared to the mountainous Surtur, this was just an inconspicuous flame attack, but in front of Thal, there were huge amounts of fire pillars, enough to completely submerge his body. I'm dreaming. The expression on Thrall's face remained unchanged. The nebula particles had already built a defensive barrier, firmly guarding his body against the pillar of flames that spewed out. The seemingly thin nebula particles built a defensive barrier that was extremely powerful. It immediately collided violently with the fire pillar launched by Surtur, releasing a terrifying aftermath. However, Thal underestimated Surtur's strength. The powerful flame-destructive power formed by Surtur's peak angry attack was resisted by the nebula particles, but the huge amounts of impact force still caused Thrall's body to continuously fly back, and for a moment he was at a disadvantage. Seeing this, the furious Surtur suddenly laughed wildly, and the energy output from his body was even more majestic, making the twilight sword almost completely glowing red, and the power of the fire pillar also continued to increase. Being repulsed by Surtur, Thrall's face became a little more serious. From Surtur's angry blow, Thal felt a faint threat. The attribute aura of the eternal fire made the barrier constructed by the nebula particles ripple slightly like water waves. Thal knew that this was because Surtur's attack energy level had reached an extremely high level of the flame system, which was why the nebula particles showed such signs. But this made Thal even more interested. With his swallowing ability, as long as he can absorb enough energy, the powerful attribute light spots in the nebula particles will definitely become more flaming colors again. A ray of light flashed in the eyes of Thal, who was flying back. A little bit of dark green luster flashed on the barrier that was originally just defended by nebula particles. This dark green represents an energy with the same attribute as the eternal fire energy level, annihilation. As soon as the annihilation attribute of the dark green light came out, Thrall's retreating body suddenly stopped, and the impact on his body disappeared in an instant. Originally, the pillar of fire and the nebula barrier collided fiercely, but when the annihilation attribute was activated, even the aftermath of the energy dissipated completely disappeared at the point where the two came into contact. The essence of annihilation is to completely bury the destruction. It will not directly confront the pillar of fire at all, but will act on its essence. Thrall's retreating body stopped, and then faced the pillar of fire, slowly approaching him. Surtur, who was laughing wildly, paused for a moment, with a look of disbelief on his face. He knew that his attack contained the powerful attribute of the eternal fire. Even the god King Odin did not dare to bear it as if nothing had happened. Not to mention Thrall, who carried the pillar of fire and moved forward at the same time. Put away the children's tricks. Do you have any other tricks? When Surtur was confused, Thal's unusually mocking and provocative voice came out at an inappropriate time. Following Thrall's taunt, Surtur's anger reached an unprecedented level. With a roar, the blazing flames on Surtur's body seemed to melt the void. Waves of extremely blazing flame energy were mobilized by Surtur without any scruples. Even the abundant flame elements in the entire flame world rioted with Surtur's roar, surging rapidly towards his body. This is the huge advantage of playing at home. In the world of fire, Surtur's combat effectiveness has reached an unprecedented peak. In addition to the originally terrifying strength, there is also the abundant fire element in the entire world for Surtur to use. It can be said that, except for the powerful existence of the real-level Godfather, Surtur is almost invincible. It's a pity that the thrall he faced was not comparable to the peak existence of level sub-Godfather. As Surtur continued to pour in majestic flame energy, using the artifact Twilight Sword to transform into increasingly fierce attacks, although Thrall's expression remained unchanged, he also felt the gradually increasing pressure. For this creature of flame who has dominated the world of flames for countless years, a little more attention. It seems that if I don't show some real skills, I really won't be able to defeat you today, then. Beneath Thal's gaze, which was as calm as a bottomless pool, was an extremely turbulent undercurrent. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from Thrall's body for the first time, and even the nebula barrier surrounding his body shook violently. Under this horrifying momentum, although it withstood the growing impact of flames, the nebula barrier was unswervingly expanding. On the surface of the nebula barrier, the dark green light representing the attribute of annihilation gradually became brighter, exuding the aura of annihilating all things. When Thrall unleashed his annihilation attribute with all his strength, the space around the nebula barrier began to be unable to withstand this terrible pressure, and collapsed and dissipated little by little. Ultimate flame, unpredictable annihilation, these two extreme attributes of energy, just one of them is enough to make the space turbulent, let alone two kinds of energy erupting at the same time. The focus of the impact of the two energies, the space was first burned by fire, softened like a candle, and then encountered the erosion of annihilation, and strangely shaped space cracks appeared directly. Behind this deep, dark and strange space crack, fierce space turbulence like a strong wind swept across the space, causing the entire battlefield to become extremely chaotic. The two extreme energies pouring into the space cracks stirred in the mysterious alien space, causing a chain reaction, and the aura coming out of the cracks became more and more terrifying. At this moment, the focus of the battlefield between Thrall and Surtur is like a huge nuclear bomb with increasingly powerful energy, which will explode at any time and destroy everything. In such a confrontation, neither Surtur nor Thrall had any intention of stopping. Instead, they intensified their efforts, and the two extreme forces attacked fiercely. The fire world was not Thrall's territory originally, and even if it was destroyed, it would not make him feel anything. Only Surtur, at the moment, has been completely overwhelmed by anger. Even the army of flames accumulated over countless years and the ultimate trump card, the eternal fire, which took thousands of years to brew and has not yet fully formed, have been exhausted. How can he still care about this? Ugly. Not far from the area where Surtur and Thrall were fighting, another battle was also unfolding, and it was nearing its end. But compared to the huge movement caused by Thrall and Surtur, it was much inferior. The power of the starry sky beast lies in the fact that its original ability bloodline is higher than that of the fire dragon, and with Thrall's luxurious training, it is exposed to extreme attribute attacks, so it exerts its combat power and finally completely crushes the fire dragon. The extremely terrifying huge dragon tail of the starry sky beast carried the terrifying power to crush the small planet. Under the sharp addition, it landed firmly on the back of the fire dragon, finally establishing the outcome of this fierce battle. With a weak cry, the fire dragon's huge body was almost cut into two pieces, and the bones on its back were almost completely shattered. Only the broken flesh and blood kept its body from being separated immediately. However, such a heavy blow has ended the fire dragon's powerful vitality. The breath of life quickly disappeared from the body of the fire dragon that fell from the sky. When it hit the broken ground, the fire dragon had completely turned into a corpse. After defeating the difficult opponent, the starry sky beast was about to roar with excitement, but the next second, an aura that made its soul tremble burst out from the sky not far away. The central area of the battle between Thal and Surtur, like the focus of an unstable bomb, finally reached its limit and exploded. Under this terrifying aura, even a being like Shinkongdanlu has a terrible feeling that he will die at any time. This feeling is extremely real. If the starry sky beast does not dodge in the aftermath of the explosion, it may follow in the footsteps of the fire dragon. It's even worse than the fire dragon, not even a corpse is left behind. A flash of eagerness flashed in the big eyes of the starry sky beast. While its huge body shrank rapidly, it turned directly into a phantom and swooped down from the sky. The impact of the explosion spread too quickly, making it impossible to escape toward the sky. Therefore, at the first opportunity, the starry sky beast made a wise judgment and rushed into the underground of the flame world. Even if the surface of the flame world cannot completely withstand the impact of this terrifying explosion, under constant consumption, the damage that the starry sky beast needs to withstand will be much smaller. The body of the starry sky beast was like an accelerating falling meteor. The position where it fell was the deep pit created by the dead fire dragon just now. With its powerful strength and sharp special attributes, the starry sky beast successfully entered the ground and disappeared from the surface just before the explosion impact. At a moment of extreme crisis, the starry sky beast's foodie nature was exposed. He picked up the broken body of the fire dragon with one claw and followed it through the surface of the flame world. The ultimate flame attributes, annihilation attributes, and the violent energy of another dimension behind the space cracks instantly burst out at the focus. The terrifying shockwave almost ignored the distance of space and spread directly at a speed faster than the speed of sound, sweeping through the devastated world of flames like a natural disaster. Earth. Under the energy impact of the three extreme energy combinations, the originally brittle and hard surface of the flame world was unable to resist. When the energy passed by, the surface disappeared piece by piece. On this devastated surface, there were originally many blood sprayed by flame creatures after death, soaking into the ground to form patches of dark red color, but under the impact, everything turned into nothingness. In this rapidly spreading impact, the starry sky beast struck at an equally fast speed, using its strong inertia and sharpness to break through the surface. However, in the blink of an eye, it had already penetrated deep into the ground, barely avoiding the most powerful force. Wave energy bursts. At the center of the energy explosion, Thal and Surtur experienced the greatest impact. Although both were leaders among level sub-godfathers, even they had to take such a terrifying explosion seriously. In Thral's body, a large number of nebula particles erupted like a flash flood, wrapping his body layer by layer at the moment of the energy explosion. The power of the gods tightly covered the body surface, and the annihilation attribute worked together to resist the raging energy. The two extreme powers were fully deployed by Thal, and the defense formed was quite solid. Moreover, his body was relatively small, and the energy impact range he needed to resist was not large. Among the exploding energy stars, he was considered comprehensive, except for the impact. The body flew back and was not injured. Compared to Thral's calmness, Surtur is much more miserable. Surtur absorbed the eternal fire, and his body returned to the size of a mountain at its peak. Although his strength reached its peak, under the impact of such an energy explosion, the pressure he faced was countless times greater than Thal's. Not only that, the furious Surtur kept attacking with all his strength during the battle, with almost no energy left. He waited until the moment before the energy exploded, then hurriedly collected the energy and hurriedly defended. It is precisely because of this that the raging explosion impact made Surtur miserable in the energy tide. The barrier launched by the huge amounts of the artifact Twilight Sword could not perfectly protect his body, and there was still a lot of energy that penetrated this layer of flame barrier, impacting Surtur's majestic flame body. The combined energy of the three extreme attributes exploded, and when it came into contact with Surtur's body, he let out a dull roar of pain. Faced with this extreme explosion impact, Surtur's molten body was like the surface of the flame world, with little resistance. It was quickly destroyed and disappeared, leaving countless dense pits in his mountain-like body, like blazing magma. The blood flows freely. Fortunately, the energy explosion did not last long. With the filling of the power of rules in the big world universe, the space cracks were quickly closed, and a lot of scattered energy also entered the different space, making this terrifying explosion end quickly. By the time all the terrifying energy disappeared, Thal and Surtur were already separated by countless distances and almost stopped at opposite ends of the flame world. After the huge amounts of explosion, the spherical nebula particles around Thal's body slowly dispersed, and the powerful aura remained as before, without any impact. Surtur, who was playing at home, was in a much more miserable state. Not only was his body in tatters, but his ferocious aura was much weaker than before. CFBA, he was half kneeling on the ground with his twilight sword, breathing heavily. When he saw Thal after that, a look of shock and anger appeared on his face. Impossible. Your strength has not reached the level of a god king. How could you be okay with the explosion just now? Seeing Thal's calm volleying power and his deep pool-like eyes looking at him calmly, Surtur let out an unwilling roar, and his mountain-like body supported the twilight sword and stood up again. Surtur asked angrily, which only elicited a disdainful snort from Thal. You must know that with the blow just now, Surtur was so angry that he had used all his strength without reservation. But Thal, the ultimate power contained in the nebula particles, only used annihilation. Surtur, only a waste like you would think that everyone is the same as you. Now, let me show you what real power is. Nebula particles surged wildly, almost filling the entire sky, and continued to condense under Surtur's shocked gaze. Surtur desperately used the eternal fire, which was the origin of the flame world for countless years. It not only brought his strength back to its peak, but also mobilized the huge flame energy of the entire world, and his combat effectiveness was indeed fierce. Facing such an opponent, Thal had to cheer up and use his true strength. I don't know how far the Susanoo, constructed by nebula particles, will reach after its strength has improved so much. The nebula particles continued to surge and condense, gradually forming a towering giant that was not inferior to Surtur. Thal was also thinking secretly in his mind. Following Thal's will, nebula particles quickly constructed a silhouette of huge amounts, the nebula particles version of the giant. The giant spread out his big hand, gently lifted Thal, and placed it on the head. The nebula particles flowed, and Thal's body was quickly integrated into his head. When Thal's figure disappeared, an extremely terrifying aura was suddenly released from the entire huge amounts of nebula giant's body. This giant's body is just a tool. Thal, who is located on the giant's head, is the god who controls everything. Surtur, now, let me see how long you can last in my hand. At the moment Thal's state is more than enough to be called a god. The majestic nebula body towered into the sky, exuding an unparalleled power. After the nebula particles devoured several extreme powers, the nebula giant version of Thal looked completely different from when he faced the sovereign unmanned fleet. The armor that wraps the nebula giant is covered with fine patterns, and a strange luster continues to flow along the patterns. It alternates between azure blue and bright yellow, and a simple and heavy atmosphere blows towards the face. Although this huge armor is constructed from nebula particles, its power far exceeds that of an artifact in the general sense. The azure blue color among the complex patterns represents the power of the gods, and the bright yellow color represents the power of the earth. With the two powers integrated, the defense power has almost reached the peak level of level sub-godfather. Even if the opponent holds a divine weapon, he may not be able to defeat it. It is difficult to break through this powerful defense. Taking a step back, even if some special artifacts can break through the armor's defense, the armor is not an entity. Nebula particles can be rebuilt at any time. When the enemy desperately breaks through the armor and finds that the armor has been restored, the expression must be quite wonderful. Nebula giant Thal is holding a long sword similar to the Twilight Sword in his hand. The length of the long sword is a few minutes longer than the twilight sword. The sword body is also narrower and longer, and it looks particularly sharp. The whole body is black. On both sides of the body, a faint golden glow flows. Although there was no battle, the golden glow of the sword blade exuded extreme sharpness as it flowed, causing the space to be torn apart. The sharp attribute was perfectly used by Thal on the weapon, and under the bright golden glow, there was another color. The dark green color representing ultimate annihilation was also poured into the weapon by Thal, but the sharp golden glow was too bright and hid the dark green color. So far, Thal has mastered a total of 4 ultimate attributes, all of which are displayed through the Nebula Giant. Although the battle has not yet begun, the terrifying power that makes Surtur tremble slightly can be seen from the extremely fearful look in Surtur's flaming eyes. You can see the look. Surtur saw Thal's strange methods and was afraid to do it rashly again, but Thal would not take his time with him. Lucky Thal raised the corners of his mouth, showing a silent smile, and then disappeared. Boom! After Nebula Thal's huge body disappeared, a sonic boom exploded in the air. This is because Nebula Thal's speed has far exceeded the speed of sound, and even a trace of afterimage cannot be caught during the action. When Nebula Thal took action, Surtur only felt the power of a roaring mountain and a tsunami. It was difficult to capture Thal's true position for a while, so he could only repeat his old tricks and build a flame barrier used to resist the previous explosion. The twilight sword was suddenly thrust in front of him. With the broad sword body at the center, a barrier of burning flames immediately protected Surtur's mountain-like body. Surtur-level sub-Godfather's perception was fully activated, constantly capturing Nebula saw through the powerful direction. Your true position. Are you looking for me? While Surtur was searching nervously, a cold voice sounded from beside him. At some point, Xingweisar's huge body appeared silently outside the flame barrier built by Surtur. Thal's voice was terrifying. Surtur was so frightened that before he had time to react, the flame barrier had already roared with huge amounts of noise. Boom! Starry Sky Thal's left fist, which was not holding a sword, was already carrying majestic power and crashed onto the flame barrier. For a moment, energy exploded, flames flew, and where Thal's left fist fell, a deep depression appeared in the flame barrier. Surtur's face changed. The flame barrier was built by him himself, and the changes in it were most obvious. Although Thal's powerful punch just now did not break the flame barrier, the overwhelmed sound on the barrier clearly showed that Thal's punch alone with his physical strength had already reached the limit of the flame barrier. Limit. As long as this force is any stronger, this barrier will completely collapse. Such a result made Surtur's horror reach the extreme. You know, this flame barrier was able to protect Surtur from the energy explosion of 3 extreme attributes, and it never collapsed. Now Thal's punch. Doesn't it mean that the power of Thal's wave is more powerful than the big explosion that combines 3 extreme attributes? The powerful punch failed to break through the barrier constructed by Surtur, which made Thal a little unhappy. He has shown a powerful fighting form, and he can't crush Surtur with a casual punch. In Thal's view, this is a denial of his strength. For this reason, Thal's body moved and disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, Nebula Thal's body had jumped high. Nebula's long sword was grasped by Starry Sky Thal's hands and raised above his head. On the sword body, a golden glow instantly burned like a blazing sun, and the world was filled with terror. Full of sharp breath. Let's see if your turtle shell can bear it. Thal's body had a sneer on his face, and he controlled huge amounts of Nebula's body to shoot down from the air without hesitation. The Nebula sword was slashed down in Surtur's horrified gaze. The battle collision between the 2 towering giants should have caused the roar of mountains and tsunamis to shake the earth, but the sword struck by Nebula Thal fell on Surtur's turtle shell-like barrier, but it did not make much noise. There was only a soft sound of bubbles breaking. The flame barrier, which could withstand the explosion of 3 extreme attributes, had no protective effect at all under Thal's sword strike. It shattered with a pissed sound, revealing the flame giant inside that was extremely shocking. Surtur force. In the state of Nebula Giant, the horrified Surtur could only see the disdainful mockery on Nebula Thal's cold and heartless face. At the moment when he could not react at all, the narrow Nebula sword had already made a faint trace. The next second, Surtur felt a slight chill in his left arm. A huge arm wreathed in flames fell to the ground, and molten blood spattered freely from the fracture, flowing on the ground and leaving deep traces on the solid ground. After a chill, extreme pain followed, and huge amounts of pain roared from Surtur's mouth. At the moment when the rabbit was up and the falcon was about to fall, Thal not only broke through Surtur's most powerful flame defense with one sword, but also cut off Surtur's left arm with the Seven Lords sword at an extremely fast speed. Seeing his arm being cut off with a sword, Surtur's eyes showed not only pain, but also huge amounts of horror. He really can't understand that he is also a level sub-godfather, and he has also absorbed the original essence of the flame world, the eternal fire. His strength has been infinitely close to that of the level godfather, plus the powerful artifact Twilight tempered in the galaxy. Sword, don't you even have the qualifications to go through a round in front of Thal? Seeing Surtur covering his broken arm on his shoulder and screaming in incredible pain, Thal did not take the opportunity to attack, but faced Surtur indifferently. There was no expression on the nebula giant's face, only the indifferent aura that looked at everything. Distribute. Surtur, do you feel the huge gap between you and me? I give you one last chance to kneel at my feet and offer your soul. Shinkong Sal's lips moved slightly, and his plain voice echoed throughout the flame world, as bright as the power of heaven, with an unquestionable supreme indifference. You actually cut off my arm, go to hell. Compared to Thrall's calmness, Surtur's painful and unwilling eyes gradually showed traces of madness, and he roared like a dying beast. He is the Lord of Flame, the supreme master of the flame world, and will never surrender to anyone, even to death. Under complete madness, Surtur completely exploded all the energy in his huge body, and his entire body became fiery red, more intense, and almost transparent. At this moment, Surtur will be integrated into the eternal fire in the crown, which will be ignited by Surtur's madness. The fire of the eternal fire is gradually nurtured in the galaxy from the core origin of the flame world, and is inextricably linked to the entire world. When ignited by Surtur, the entire flame world is almost burning, and the huge flame energy is in huge amounts. The space of it vibrated violently, heading towards Surtur. Under the crazy gathering of energy in the entire world, Surtur originally was like a mountain. The huge amounts of body size once again expanded a bit. The huge flame energy turned into substance, and once again condensed an arm, which was connected to Surtur's broken arm. Location. During this process, Thal had been watching with cold eyes and had no intention of taking advantage of the opportunity. He has already given Surtur a chance. Since Surtur doesn't know how to cherish it and still wants to put all his efforts into it, then a murderous intent flashed in Thal's eyes. The stronger Surtur is, the more likely he is to be a suitable sparring partner, allowing Thal to show off his strengths and improve his ability to control several extreme attributes. The energy of the flame world is extremely majestic, and it is continuously injected into Surtur's body, raising his aura to a peak. Every move seems to carry the pressure of a whole world. Even the powerful flame artifact Twilight sword turned red like a soldering iron because too much energy was injected into it. Die. Surtur felt the energy filling his body and roared with a cruel expression as the Twilight sword slashed towards Thal crazily. Surtur, who has reached his peak state, carries the power of a world, and is already infinitely close to level Godfather. With a sword strike, the space is unbearable and the flames dissolve it into a hole, drawing a dark trajectory. Act recklessly. Faced with this attack that seemed to destroy the world, Thal had only a cold response. The nebula giant sword faced the coming Twilight sword, and he raised the sword without any scruples. Boom! Two extremely powerful attacks exploded instantly, causing large swaths of space cracks to emerge. The powerful counterattack force made Surtur pause for a moment, but Thal did not retreat even half a step, almost without pause, and struck down another sword with a blazing golden glow. Boom! 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 The monotonous world of flames, under the fierce battle between Thal and Surtur, the top-level sub-godfather, experienced huge amounts of vibrations. The sky was filled with scar-like space cracks, and the ground could not withstand the terrifying force. With destructive power, the mountains are broken and filled with cracks. In such a pure duel, Thal felt extremely relaxed. The giant sword in his hand danced faster and faster, and his strength slowly increased unknowingly, moving towards a more powerful level. Since Thral's debut, this was the first time he faced a qualified opponent, and it also allowed him to fully unleash his rapidly increasing power. He continued to master it and became more and more skillful. However, Thal was happy, but Surtur was miserable. Under Thrall's increasingly powerful attacks, Surtur only felt himself becoming more and more powerless, completely trapped in Thrall's attack rhythm. At the beginning, Surtur was able to barely compete with Thrall with the blessing of the great power of this world. But as the battle intensified, Surtur found that facing Thrall, he seemed to be a sparring partner. He could only defend and be beaten, but was unable to fight back. When Thrall reached a comfortable point, he let out a clear roar, and the power of the earth, the sharpness attribute, the power of the gods, and the power of annihilation all exploded and merged into the Nebula Great Sword. At this moment, all the light on the Nebula Giant Sword converged and turned into an ordinary giant sword. But Surtur's eyes showed incredible fear. Facing Nebula Thrall's unremarkable giant sword that had no glow in his hand, Surtur unexpectedly felt a feeling that he had not tasted for countless years. That is the fear before death. This is the power of Thrall, who fully accessed all his powers during the fierce battle with Surtur and integrated all the devoured powers into one. It is also his most peak sword so far. No energy is exposed at all the power is contained in the Nebula Giant Sword. It will only explode at the moment of attack, showing the ultimate power. Facing this sword, Surtur, who had ignited the eternal fire and reached the peak of Yahweh's Father level, even half-stepped into the Father level, had almost no resistance. Because he couldn't resist at all. The trajectory of the Nebula Giant Sword was like an antelope hanging its horns. Although the murderous intention was overwhelming, there was no trace to be found. It strangely bypassed the Twilight Sword lying horizontally in front of Surtur, and went all the way down from Surtur's forehead, striking his body with incomparable accuracy, broke into two pieces. It was silent, from the time Thal drew his sword to when he put it away. There was no powerful explosion, no violent energy fluctuations, and no earth-shattering power. But as the sword passed by, all the blazing flames on Surtur's body, which was as huge as a mountain, began to extinguish. No sound was made, the breath of life rapidly drained from Surtur's body, and there was no longer that sense of close connection between the entire flame world and this body. It is impossible for a lifeless body to use the eternal fire to communicate with the original power of the world of fire. Surtur's eyes, where the flames were quickly extinguished, were half horror and half doubtful. Until Nebula Thal's sword ended his life, he did not understand what this sword was about. Amidst the muffled, rumbling sound, Surtur's body quickly shattered and turned into a block of rock without heat. It was quickly swallowed up by the crown on his head, and almost completely disappeared into the huge horn-like crown in an instant. Without Surtur's control, his artifact Twilight Sword was also absorbed by the crown and disappeared into the inexplicable time and space. The crown vibrated for a while, and quickly shrank from the form of huge amounts to an ordinary file size. When it was about to fall from the sky, Nebula Thrall grabbed it and held it in his hand. After defeating Surtur, Nebula Thrall's form quickly dispersed, and the terrifying fighting spirit disappeared from Thrall's body, revealing Thrall's body in the Nebula Giant's head. That sword just now integrated all my power. I don't know how to face the real level Godfather. There were nebula changes in Thal's deep pool-like eyes. He held Surtur's remaining crown in one hand and sighed to himself. Although Thrall is very confident in his peak sword, he has never fought with the real level Godfather, and he cannot accurately judge the specific level of his peak attack. Thal was not too entangled in these uncertain things. He glanced slightly at the deep pit somewhere on the ground. After a smile appeared on his face, he immediately landed on the curved corner of Surtur in his hand. This pit is quite deep, almost going straight into the ground. It was created by the starry sky beast when he was fighting Surtur before. Under Thrall's powerful perception, at the bottom of the pit, the starry sky beast was safe and sound, and had received considerable benefits. After this guy got to a safe position, he could no longer control his foodie nature and swallow the body of the fire dragon he killed. Now his body was filled with huge flame energy and was undergoing strange changes. Definitely, it's very changeable. The starry sky behemoth has some similarities to Thrall. It also has the ability to partially devour and evolve. The fire dragon has become a help on its evolutionary path. Although this change is drastic, the energy in the fire dragon's body is huge. Thrall estimates that it will take a certain amount of time for the starry sky beast to completely digest and complete this change. During this period of time, Thal did not disturb it, and just happened to study the remaining crown after Surtur was killed. Although Surtur's huge body was completely destroyed with one sword, causing all the life breath in his body to drain away, Thrall's perception was clear. Surtur, he's not dead yet. His peak sword destroyed only Surtur's body, making his life breath disappear, but Surtur's soul breath still existed. It's in this strange crown. Playing with the crown left by Surtur, Thal showed a bit of amusement on his face, and strands of spiritual power penetrated towards crown. After feeling the slight obstacle, Thrall's powerful spiritual power entered the crown arbitrarily. Through the perspective of spiritual power, the scene in front of Thal changed, and he saw the cave inside the crown. This place is similar to the flame world. Burning flames can be seen everywhere. It is completely a miniature version of the flame world. Somewhere in the sea of fire, Thrall's spiritual power locked onto a soul aura. A playful smile hung on the corner of Thrall's mouth. In the world of soul power constructed by the crown, Thrall's spiritual power also transformed into his own body, appearing in front of the soul aura he sensed. Surtur, you are good at pretending to be dead, but do you think you can escape my anger like this? Facing this group of soul power, Thal, who was built with mental power, had a cold smile on his face, and his voice vibrated out through his mental power. How is that possible? How did you find out? When the sound of Thrall's spiritual power sounded, the soul with the breath of flames shook violently, conveying extreme horror. This group of souls is none other than Surtur, whose body was just destroyed by Thal. Thal smiled indifferently, without any explanation. His mental power turned into golden blades and cut towards Surtur's soul. Thal would not show any mercy to this kind of unscrupulous guy. The weak surrender to the strong is originally the iron law of the universe. He gave Surtur a chance, but Surtur did not cherish it. Ah! Stop! Ah! The golden blades transformed from spiritual power kept cutting Surtur's soul. The extreme pain was far beyond the destruction of the body. Even Surtur could not bear it and let out crazy roars and howls. Each golden blade will cause Surtur extreme pain, and at the same time, it will weaken his soul. Under Thal's constant attack, Surtur, who only has his soul left, has no room for resistance. He was still solid at first. The soul sphere keeps getting cut and watered down. Let me go. I am willing to surrender. Stop. Please, please. Under the endless pain, Surtur wailed and surrendered. In order to avoid continuing to suffer this unbearable pain, he has completely put down his pride and dignity as the Lord of the Flame World. In my rule, there are no second chances. Thal spoke indifferently, and the golden blade transformed by his mental power showed no sign of stopping, bringing Surtur deep despair. Under Thrall's constant torture, Surtur's soul was finally reduced to a small mass, even infinitely close to being transparent, and even the painful cry became inaudible. However, Thal's brows frowned slightly. According to the strength and frequency of his attacks, Surtur's soul will definitely not be able to persist until now. Subsequent attacks will make Surtur feel hellish torture. But his soul seemed to have some strange connection. It was extremely weak but could not truly die. In response, Thal stopped attacking and began to study the mystery. Without the crazy torture, Surtur's soul finally felt better and stopped wailing. After a brief pause, Surtur's extremely depressed soul had a chance to breathe, and waves of resentment came out, carrying madness. Ha ha ha, I am the Lord of the Flame World, and I am immortal. One day, I will be resurrected again and let you endure thousands of times the pain I have endured today. The extremely vicious voice vibrated out of his soul and reached Thrall's ears. In response, Thal just smiled coldly. Really, it's a pity that you don't have such a chance. The violent mental power condensed crazily and turned into an attack that was larger than any previous golden blade. It cut through Surtur's soul again, making it difficult for Surtur to even utter a vicious curse and could only continue to wail. After some exploration, Thal has guessed the secret of Surtur's claim to be immortal. The secret lies in the crown that Thal controls. According to Thal's speculation, this crown is probably also a strange item bred in the world of fire, which can hide Surtur's soul in it. No matter what kind of attack, it can retain the most original trace and not be completely destroyed. However, as long as he completely destroys the crown, Surtur's so-called immortality is a joke. After the huge golden blade transformed by the majestic spiritual power slashed through Surtur's soul, Thrall's spiritual power withdrew from the world inside the crown. Thal, who was holding Surtur's crown, had a gleam in his eyes. If it were someone else holding Surtur's crown, it might be true as he said, and it would be difficult to kill Surtur completely. But Thal was different. Total destruction is not necessary to deal with this crown. Nebula particles devour everything. Although Surtur's crown is magical, it is also among them. The next second, endless nebula particles erupted from Thal's body, and soon covered the entire crown. Following Thal's will, the supreme devouring power fully unfolded. Surtur, your confidence is as pathetic as a joker in front of me. It's a pity that I can't hear your last words before you die. Seeing the nebula particles completely submerging the entire crown, Thal said indifferently. Under the extreme devouring power, Surtur's crown vibrated crazily, and the strange connection with the entire flame world caused it to vibrate independently. There is a powerful force fighting against the engulfment of nebula particles. Feeling this confrontation, Thal's expression remained unchanged, and the powerful devouring force burst out, firmly suppressing the entire crown. How can a small crown compete with the ability passed down by the supreme creation god? Under Thal's firm suppression, the crown's resistance became weaker and weaker, and finally collapsed at a moment not long after. A scream of panic and despair seemed to emit from the crown's interior, and then the entire crown was completely submerged by the nebula particles. Thal's eyes moved slightly. On the link between the nebula particles and the main body, good waves of strange fiery energy burst out quickly. Through this link, they crazily flowed into his body. After breaking through the protective mechanism of the crown, the majestic energy brewing in the crown was an unexpected surprise, and even Thal was surprised. The energy of this flame has reached its extreme level in Thal's perception, which is comparable to the other 4 extreme attributes he had swallowed and absorbed before. However, after a while, some tiny fiery red light spots were born on the surface of the extremely strange nebula particles. However, the number is not large at the moment and it is not so obvious yet. It seems that the last remaining energy of the eternal fire and everything of Surtur are in this crown. A smile appeared on Thal's face, and his devouring power continued to increase. The continuous devouring of the crown caused Thal's fire attribute energy to continue to increase. The ultimate flame attribute energy, even with Thal's powerful ability, cannot be transformed immediately. Therefore, under Thal's skin, there is a faint dark red firelight flowing like strange fire snakes. It looks like something strange. This ultimate flame attribute energy, with the breath of the eternal fire, makes Thal feel an eternal burning power. At the same time, the endless energy of the entire flame world also resonated more and more powerfully as Thal devoured it. It seemed that Thal's body was the core of the entire world. Thal has a feeling that as long as he goes deep into this world, he can control all the energy in this world at will. This feeling becomes more and more obvious as the devouring deepens. Even without using the powerful perception of mental power, Thal can clearly perceive every corner of the world with his eyes closed. At a certain moment, Thal's perception completely covered the entire flame world, and a large amount of information was instantly understood. The birth, development and prosperity of flame world. The birth, evolution, rise and power of the first flame creature. At the same time, there is a secret passage connecting the flame world and the 9 realms, a note of the 9 realms. Everything is controlled by Thal. Soon, among the originally strange nebula particles, the fiery red light spots increased more and more, reaching the same level as other colors. Not only that, swallowing Surtur's remaining crown brought benefits to Thal far beyond simply adding an ultimate attribute energy. Even the original characteristics of the crown were absorbed and digested by Thal. From now on, as long as Thal appears in the world of fire, all flame creatures that automatically evolve from the origin of this world will be driven by Thal. As long as their strength cannot exceed Thal, they will never be able to disobey Thal's will. Although there is almost no life in the current world of fire, and all creatures derived from the origin of the world have been killed by Thal, but from the CFAI information obtained from the crown, Thal clearly knows that as long as this world does not being completely destroyed, as time goes by, a steady stream of flame creatures will be born, evolving in the midst of killing. If we really give this world an extremely long time, even a level sub-godfather peak fire king like Surtur can gradually emerge. Moreover, the origin of this world will, through the power of the universe and galaxies, very slowly produce the eternal fire over a long period of time. As long as there is enough time, the incomplete eternal fire can evolve into the blazing eternal fire, which even the power of a true God cannot extinguish. As the core of the flame world, the eternal fire will feed back the entire world once it matures. While making the world stable and strong, the speed of the flame creatures born will also be accelerated countless times, and the starting point of the strength of the flame creatures is quite high. Surtur is really a waste. He has such a powerful item as the crown and completely controls the entire world of fire. Yet he has been shrinking for so many years. It seems that I made the right decision to kill him. After learning a lot of information, Thal thought with some sigh. Thal has swallowed up enough power of the brand new ultimate attribute flame, allowing new points of light to evolve among the nebula particles, and the vast energy in the entire crown has also been swallowed up to the end. Boom! With a sound, in the area surrounded by nebula particles, the crown was completely shattered, and all of it turned into flame energy, which quickly flowed into Thal's body. However, after the crown collapsed, another powerful flame aura emerged, and a flaming long sword appeared in the area wrapped in nebula particles. It was Surtur's powerful artifact Twilight Sword. Thal's eyes moved slightly, showing a bit of understanding. He ended Surtur with one sword strike, but left the Twilight Sword behind. This powerful fire attribute artifact also disappeared into the crown with Surtur's death. It seems that it was not destroyed with it, but was strangely hidden in the space inside the crown. Now that the crown collapsed, the Twilight Sword naturally appeared. However, Thal did not control the nebula particles to devour this artifact. His current ability of the Ultimate Flame Attribute series has matured, and he does not need more fire energy. Even if he swallows the Twilight Sword, it will only make the energy he controls more vast, and it will not significantly improve the actual combat effectiveness. Help. Therefore, it is better to keep this artifact. Even if Thal cannot use it, it can be used for trade or as a reward to powerful and loyal subordinates in the future. The ability to add a series of ultimate attributes has taken Thal's strength to a higher level. The terrifying aura on his body has reached an unprecedented peak. With every move, even without deliberately inducing power, he displays a terrifying aura. It also carries great pressure. Pity. Even though Thal was happy that his strength had improved again, he still had some regrets. As early as when he obtained the sharp attribute energy, Thal's strength was already approaching the peak of level sub-Godfather. In Thal's view, he only needed a suitable opportunity to successfully break through to the true level Godfather. By that time, the meaning will be completely different. Although there is only one level difference between the peak of level sub-Godfather and the real level Godfather, the real power is like the insurmountable gap between heaven and earth. This time, another new extreme attribute evolved from the fierce battle in the world of flames. Although Thal's harvest was extremely rich, it still could not help him truly break through the threshold of level Godfather. Thal already felt that he was only one step away from becoming the real level Godfather. Perhaps, if I can control another extreme attribute of power, I can. Thal's eyes changed, and the space nodes of the flame world and other realms of the 9 realms emerged in his mind. Among them, a strange node connects an extremely cold world that is frozen all year round. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.